When the moment he opens his eyes, he is thrust straight into a brutal new world. This is a world of trained survival, where every single passenger must disembark. They explore each station with only one real goal, and that is staying alive. A lucky few might find rare treasures, but the unlucky ones usually pay. They pay with their lives, proving that opportunity and danger walk hand in hand. To survive here, passengers have to gather supplies and upgrade their carriages. Over time, they will build a highly customized train world of their own. But our protagonist enters this deadly game with an advantage nobody else has. Unique ascension ability lets him evolve absolutely anything he holds. He turns the completely mundane into something extraordinary with a single touch. A basic dagger becomes an enchanted blade, and later, the eternal cutter. Even a basic forest tree can be elevated into a blessed tree. Eventually, it becomes a golden Venus tree. Even a common beehive gets upgraded. He can transform a simple nest into a giant wasp hive or a nano hive. While other passengers desperately fight each other over a single scrap of bread, he just keeps growing stronger, utilizing this insane power to his advantage. He leaves everyone else far behind. He looks around the carriage. Can he even subject the train itself to this godlike evolution? Turns out his intuition is correct, and before the first station even arrives, he secures a massive lead. Suddenly, a system notification pulses in his mind. The ascension is a success, and he has just broken a historic record. This unlocks the legendary Destiny Divergence module, now as the conductor. He is told he can choose his very next station. He braces himself. The system warns him to sit tight because the train is finally moving. We are arriving at the first stop. If you are enjoying this story so far, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic updates. Now let us jump back a few hours to see how this started. Let us go back a few hours earlier. A haunting message echoed. It wished him eternal life right as the train prepared to depart. When he finally opens his eyes, a sharp headache pulses through him. He rubs his temples while staring around the unfamiliar train carriage. Not a single detail of this situation makes sense to him. His last memory is staying up late watching anime before darkness took over. A frustrating gap remains in his mind for a brief second. He wonders if he died from overworking and got sent to hell. But a cold, mysterious voice suddenly interrupts his grim thoughts. The voice announces that all survivors have awakened, starting the system. It begins sharing the basic train rules. Our protagonist listens closely. Rule number 1 is that he must never abandon his train. Every 24 hours, the train will stop at a new station. The stop lasts 3 hours, allowing passengers to disembark or stay. His main goal is simple: collect resources and upgrade his train. But the voice makes one thing clear: never leave the train. Do not leave before a station. The final command is chilling. Survive, the system warns them all to follow the rules. Rules: he was told the first station would arrive in just 1 hour. The sheer length of the message made him reflexively pinch his cheek, and the sharp sting proved this was real, no dream. His headache was finally fading and he struggled up from the cold floor to survey his surroundings. It was exactly as it appeared, a lonely carriage hurtling through an endless wilderness. Streaming past the windows, the only notable feature was an oval-shaped device at the front, equipped with a glowing screen displaying the words Train Control System. Without hesitation, he approached and touched it, prompting the system to display options for conductor info, train details, trading platform, and a chat room. Curious, he opened the chat room and saw it was already filled to capacity with 10,000 people. Messages flooded past. In a frantic, terrifying blur, one person screamed about their wealth and demanded to be let out. Another searched desperately for their crucial medication. A woman named Cheyenne was calling out for her husband. Some wondered if they were ice guide, while one cynical soul cheered about not having to deal with their boss tomorrow. But then his eyes caught a message from someone claiming they were all just bad actors in a reality show. He declared he was getting off immediately to prove it was fake, completely ignoring everyone's warnings. Within a minute, his name vanished and the passenger count dropped to 9,999. Talk about a chill. Did he actually die? Shaking his head, he decided to stop dwelling on it and closed the chat, swiping to his train details. It was a level 1 train with no extra carriages, moving at a measly 20 kilometers per hour, a basic workbench. Sat there for recycling, alongside a level 1 frame, wheels and base, the upgrade. Requirements were brutal: 100 kilograms of wood, 150 of metal, and 50 parts. The low speed caught his attention. If arrivals were fixed at 24-hour intervals, he wondered why speed would even matter. Plus, if 10,000 people were all arriving at once, the station would have to be incredibly massive. He stared out at the wilderness again, hit by a sudden, terrifying thought. What if speed mattered because moving too slowly meant something would eventually catch up? Shaking it off, he opened his personal info screen. His name and ID were listed alongside sanity and stamina stats, both sitting at a perfect 100, but the sanity meter warned of dangerous stages of mental decline, spanning from fatigue to total madness, while stamina governed his physical ability to function. There were 0 abilities listed. Under his talent section, however, a single word changed everything: sublimation. When he inspected it, the system explained he could expend stamina or sanity to evolve or upgrade absolutely anything, with 0 restrictions on category or level. He quickly searched the chat room for any mention of talents, but found absolutely nothing. If such cheat powers were common, someone would have bragged about them, leading him to believe that talent holders were exceptionally rare. He pondered why he had been granted this cheat, and it dawned on him that he had always been slightly different back home. He recalled how broken computers suddenly ran high-end games after his touch, or how regular cars seemed to reach impossible speeds. His friends used to joke about it. He thought he was pleasing machine spirits, but always dismissed it as mere coincidence. Now this description confirmed it. It was real all along. He wondered just how far he could push this power to sublimate anything. Walking over to the workbench, he saw a water bottle, bread, and a small knife. These were his starter items. He stared at the level 1 shoddy dagger. He ordered it to sublimate. An invisible force instantly wrapped the blade. As it enveloped the crude steel, his stamina dropped from 100 to 90. Instantly, it transformed into a level 2 enchanted sharp dagger. Excitement washed over him. The weapon gleamed coldly in his hand. His rare talent actually worked. Better yet, the stamina cost was totally manageable. He swung the dagger. It whistled sharply through the air. He was amazed at this high-quality weapon. He made a masterpiece out of complete junk. Then, a wild idea hit him. He looked around the train carriage. The skill said he could sublimate any existence. That had to include this entire train. Taking a deep, steady breath, he braced himself. With his eyes sparkling in anticipation, he walked right up to the control panel. He placed his hand firmly on the oval device, silently ordering it to sublimate. The invisible force flared up again, but this time something felt completely different. His stamina started draining at a much faster rate than with the knife. A crushing wave of exhaustion hit him as his stamina numbers began to crash. It plummeted from 90 down to 30. He collapsed onto the floor, gasping. Still, he felt an intense rush of excitement, watching the train change shapes. Right before him, the whole carriage transformed. A system notification popped up. The upgrade succeeded. The train was now level 2, but the requirements were steep. It needed 200 kilograms of wood and 200 mechanical parts, plus 400 kilograms of metal. On top of that, new features unlocked. He unlocked new upgrade choices and a massive reward for breaking a record. He got a special module card for the fastest train upgrade ever. Once he finally caught his breath, he checked the train's current status. Reaching level 2 automatically improved the chassis, the frame, and wheels. Even the workbench upgraded, doubling his top speed from 20 kilometers up to 40 kilometers per hour, and trust me, it gets even better. He realized he could actually sublimate this entire train even further. Unlike the knife, which was maxed out, the train's potential was huge. He knew his current stamina was not enough to upgrade it again, unless he tapped into his mental energy, but he remembered the warning. Those terrifying warnings about sanity made him quickly shove that dangerous idea aside. Instead, he focused on the new upgrade options and that special card. The level 2 menu offered 4 blueprints, including a free basic carriage. A water tank cost 1 coin, and a burst thruster cost 5. To extend docking time, it cost 2 coins. He frowned slightly. These train coins were clearly the local currency, and he had none. Without any, he worried he would be forced to settle for the free option. Luckily, the system confirmed he could reserve these choices for later. He had up to 3 station stops, Feeling relieved, he claimed the free carriage blueprint, immediately noting the massive list of materials needed. He held back, sublimating the blueprint now was too risky, fearing the construction costs would ruin him before he even got started. He ignored the plans and focused on the special module card instead. It materialized instantly, a glowing blue diamond floating above his open hand. But the card's description was frustratingly vague and brief, stating only that it would grant a random special module upon activation. Naturally, he couldn't resist trying to upgrade the card itself. His stamina was dangerously low, but his mind was sharp and a quick meal of dry bread and water miraculously boosted his stamina back to 50. Testing it shouldn't be a problem, he muttered, initiating the sublimation. An invisible, crushing force surged back as the card suddenly released. A dazzling shower of blue sparks that resembled falling stars. From the outside, the entire train looked like a brilliant blue comet, tearing through the endless dark. Then the light died and heavy exhaustion hit. His stamina plunged straight to 20, and his mental power fell to 60, triggering a mental fatigue warning, but the price of 70 total points was worth it. The basic card had evolved into an exclusive module card. Sprawled on the floor, he wondered what this mental fatigue warning actually did since he felt normal. Maybe his aching body was simply drowning out the mental strain. He sent a messy, scattered prayer to every god he could think of, from ancient deities to the supreme god emperor, and activated the card. Bright blue light wrapped around him as a system alert congratulated him on unlocking a unique conductor module called the Crossroads of Fate. The effect was simple, yet absolutely massive. He always had another choice. And different choices led to different destinies, but before he could investigate, the train's intercom crackled to life, blaring their arrival at the station. He was stunned to realize an entire hour had slipped past already. With just 1 minute left on the clock, a second screen popped up. Here is where things get interesting. 2 paths lay right in front of him. Platform 1 was the swamp land, and Platform 2 was the weapon-filled armory. Recognizing the power of his new exclusive module, he didn't hesitate. He picked the armory. In this brutal world, weapons meant real survival. The moment he made his choice, the entire space ahead of them warped violently, opening up like the massive jaw of a giant beast. The train whistle screamed as they plunged through the broken reality. Everything changed in a flash. They had arrived at the stop. A 3-hour countdown started, and luckily, the screen showed 0 nearby threats. The heavy train slowly ground to a halt, the squealing brakes giving way to an eerie, suffocating silence as he reached his destination. Standing before the heavy exit door, he took one slow, deep breath to calm his racing heart, gripping his upgraded dagger tightly. He pressed the release switch. Outside lay an endless pitch-black void. Yet bizarrely, a colossal structure looking as tiny as a matchbox stood clearly ahead. He looked up, no sun, no stars, yet the entire place was somehow visible. The road beneath him and the looming structure were perfectly clear, he realized. Space travel is incredibly overpowered, it explained. Why all the trains arrived at the exact same time, despite massive distances. He stepped off the train, reaching the massive entrance in under 10 paces. The massive doors were shut tight, but he managed to pry a gap open with his dagger. As the heavy doors opened, a wave of rotten stench hit him square in the face. Stepping inside, he quickly discovered long rows of neatly arranged wooden crates, the obvious source of that decaying odor. With his blade, he pried the rusted locks off the nearest container. Inside, 2 bolt-action rifles lay half buried in wood shavings. The system identified them as low-level marksman rifles, each equipped with 20 low-grade bullets. That was 2 guns and 40 rounds in one crate. This was incredibly good loot. He spent the next hour prying open crates and hauling all that cargo back. After several back-and-forth trips, the adrenaline-fueled strength he ran on began to hit its limit. His stamina had dropped down to 15 points. Constantly using sublimation had already pushed his physical boundaries, though his sheer excitement somehow let his spirit recover to 70 points. With 3 hours of docking time and no quick replenishment, he realized he had little strength left to move those supplies, unless he paced himself. So, after taking a brief rest, he shifted over to lighter exploration. In a side room, he spotted several sealed iron boxes on a shelf. That reminded him of old military supply videos seen back home. The markings on the surface were mostly blurred. Honestly, anyone would feel just as nervous here, he Swallowed hard and forced one open. Inside were neatly stacked blocks of compressed biscuits, looking like gold bars and giving off a faint, milky aroma. Mixed with a fermented tang, ignoring the expiration date, he shoved one into his mouth immediately. It was exactly what he needed, but he quickly realized he would need water. These things quench hunger but leave him parched. He found 4 barrels of these rations, 80 biscuits total, enough to sustain a man for half a month. Nearby, he also found sealed barrels of water, but the smell was distinctly undrinkable. Still, he moved everything aboard. Loot is loot. The armory was a cramped, decaying space filled with collapsed shelves and rotting debris. In 2 hours, he salvaged 42 intact rifles. The rest were rusted beyond use, fit only for processing. Station, he also loaded up on iron and wood, even if he did not use them for own upgrades. They would be valuable for trades. With 30 minutes left on the countdown, he decided on making one last trip. His carriage was getting packed, and he knew a second carriage was top priority. He had wood and parts, but he was still desperately short on metal. He headed for the innermost area, bypassing all the mess, to check the final rooms, which looked like crew quarters. The first few were empty, but as he entered the last one, he heard a sickening crunch. He looked down to see he had stepped on a small leg bone. He muttered a quick apology to the skeleton. Honestly, he was not particularly spooked. Even as a kid, horror movies only amused him, and corpses never really fazed him. As he pulled his foot back, he spotted a dust-covered document bag beneath the skeletal remains. It was incredibly strange. Both iron and wood had completely rotted too. Nothing lay in this desolate wasteland, yet one paper bag was intact. He grabbed it, running back to the train to use the system appraisal. Safety first. To his absolute surprise, the screen flashed with success. It was a level 1 treasure chest. He actually laughed out loud. He thanked the old skeleton, promising a proper burial, but then he froze. If he could sublimate the train, surely he could sublimate this too. His stats sat pretty high at 30 stamina and 80 spirit. Easy choice. This bag would not drain him much, and he had food to recover. Decision made. He quickly whispered the system command to sublimate. Instantly his stats crashed. A flashing warning signal appeared. His spirit fell below 50, plunging him into a state of self-doubt. He collapsed onto the floor like a dying fish, staring blankly upward. After a moment, he sat up, with 20 stamina and 50 spirit. Honestly, it was not that bad, aside from physical fatigue. The self-doubt debuff did not seem to slow him down much. Reaching level 2 cost 40 points, higher than expected, but the folder upgraded. A level 2 chest, it reached its maximum limit. Perhaps it lacked potential, or some unknown system rule was capping it. He rubbed his hands together and opened it. The rewards flashed. 4 train coins, a Colt M191, and a blueprint. A garbage collector. Looking at his 4 coins, he realized this was his main income. He opened the train interface. The level 2 options were still listed there at the top. Without hesitation, he decided to spend his newly earned coins on upgrades. He spent 3 train coins to purchase a basic water tank blueprint. He also bought extra docking time, leaving him with only a single coin to his name. If he could find another chest at the next station, he might buy that coveted train acceleration device. He noticed the departure clock had shifted to an hour and 15 minutes, so he turned his attention to his physical loot. The Colt M1911 felt incredibly heavy in his hands. Compared to cheap weapons from the armory, this was a masterpiece. A total work of art. He quickly guessed that guns in this world likely shared a universal bullet type, so he loaded magazine with low-grade ammo to test it out. Aiming at a wooden box outside the carriage, he pulled the trigger. The crate instantly shattered into splinters. This shot was absolutely shocking. He rubbed his sore palm, where the heavy recoil bit into his hand, even though this pistol used the same bullets as the others. It was twice as powerful. The tempting thought of what would happen if he sublimated it crossed his mind. Talk about a massive gamble. He quickly shook his head to dismiss the dangerous idea for now. Besides, his physical and mental reserves were hovering near their limits. It was far wiser to wait until he recovered first. After putting the pistol away, he checked both blueprints on the control system. He acquired a basic water tank blueprint, designed to store water and keep it fresh. It keeps water fresh for 10 days, needing 10 kilograms of metal and 20 mechanical. parts, but the external garbage collector caught his eye even more. This handy machine would automatically sweep up trash from platforms before departure. Building it required 30 kilograms of metal and 100 mechanical parts. An optional modification of 300 extra parts would allow the workbench to automatically recycle that waste into highly valuable, usable crafting materials. With 60 kilograms of metal and 220 mechanical parts on hand, he muttered that he could easily afford to build both upgrades right now. However, doing so would mean putting his next additional train carriage on hold. He decided to wait, since his extra docking time allowed him a proper rest. When the countdown entered its final hour, he opened the trade platform. He wanted to scout the market, although the platform rules felt pretty strange. While active conductors could only list items after actually leaving a station, those still docked at the station were completely free to buy anything available. This was a transparent attempt to stop direct station-to-station trading. Yet it did nothing to prevent private deals or purchases while docked. It was a glaring loophole. You have to wonder what the system wanted. Perhaps they were subtly hinting that conductors could ignore certain rules. He focused his efforts on trading for metal, scanning his surplus pile of low-grade rifles and compressed biscuits. Food and security were the ultimate commodities. But when he refreshed the trading platform, he hit a major snag. While some had listed metal, the quantities were tiny and prices were absurdly inflated. It was obvious that most sellers were just testing the waters. Turning to the global chat room, he watched it scroll wildly with messages from conductors who had already moved past their first stops. One person complained about finding nothing but scrap tires at a garbage station, while another lamented arriving at a stinking, muddy grassland. When a few people pointed out that black soil from the area could be used to grow vegetables, others mocked the complete lack of space on their trains. Then the whole chat shifted as someone posted a blueprint for a basic mechanical fishing rod, sparking immense envy. It quickly became clear that many passengers had not found any blueprints. Desperate players quickly began haggling, offering up their own bread and water. For mechanical parts, the desperate situation had some offering everything they had, just for half a loaf of bread, but things soon turned sour. When the topic of treasure chests came up, the unlucky ones grew extremely hostile, demanding that others share details for the sake of survival. Eventually, one player buckled under the severe pressure and posted a quick screenshot revealing they opened a Tier 1 treasure chest to find 2 train coins, a healing salve, and a blueprint for insulation padding. Based on this progression, he calculated that if a Tier 1 chest contains 2 coins and Tier 2 contains 4, then a level 3 chest should logically yield 6, compared to his Tier 2 haul. The rewards from the very first tier seemed considerably meager indeed. He knew that medicine was a precious commodity in this world, and any amount of coins was a step forward. Suddenly, a message in the public chat caught his eye. A user named Li Zio Shan was asking if anyone wanted metal, stating he had some available for trade and was giving priority to weapons. The fact that he was prioritizing armaments over food suggested he did not lack basic survival capabilities. He preferred dealing with capable individuals rather than those who could not even fill their own stomachs yet, so he decided to reach out to him. A line of text soon appeared in their private chat as Li Zio Shan asked if he was looking to trade for metal. He countered by asking how much he had, to which the trader cautiously asked how much he needed. It was clear he was being guarded, but his response confirmed he possessed a substantial amount. When he asked if the man could produce 150 kilograms of metal, the chat went silent. He imagined the trader staring at the message in disbelief. That was enough for a full Level 1 train upgrade, and the man likely wondered how he had already gathered the necessary wooden mechanical parts, or what gave him the confidence to make such a massive purchase. After a moment of hesitation, the trader replied that he could provide it, but questioned what he had to trade, noting that the starter dagger would only fetch 10 kilograms. He simply asked how the man felt about a rifle. Using the system photo function, he sent him a picture of one of the average low-grade rifles he had salvaged. He offered him 1 gun and 20 bullets in exchange for his 150 kilograms of metal. He was shocked, instantly accusing him of robbery. Claiming that even a gun was not worth such a steep price, he remained unfazed as he played with a bullet, because when you hold all the cards, you make the rules. He calmly told the trader that his asking price was not expensive at all, reminding him of the sheer value of a gun and the unknown dangers awaiting them. At the next station, having a firearm would significantly improve his chances of survival, and the trader knew he was right. He had obtained over 300 kilograms of metal and a treasure chest at his first stop, which likely made him feel like the luckiest person alive, but that pride clearly paled in comparison to the weapon in his hands. When he tried to lower the price to 100 kilograms, he stroked his chin and narrowed his eyes. See how easily he baited him into showing his hand. He refused to budge, telling him he could take the deal or he would simply find someone else who was more eager. The man gritted his teeth and asked for time to think, but he gave him only 10 seconds, claiming he was busy. He had no way of knowing he was still at the first station, or that he was focused on building a carriage rather than a simple engine upgrade. Finally, the trader hardened his resolve and agreed to the trade. He asked why he needed so much metal and if he had blueprints to mass-produce these guns, clarifying that he was not trying to steal his secrets, but wanted to know if they could trade again in the future. He boasted that he was confident he could reach level 2 within 3 stops, and offered to promote his weapons once he became known as a top-tier conductor. The young conductor found the trader's confidence highly amusing. If he considered reaching level 2 and 3 stops to be strong, he wondered what he would think of him reaching it before even entering the first station. He decided to humor the man's delusions of grandeur and simply told him to proceed with the trade. He was curious to see how the system handles the transaction. Following the prompts, he places the rifle and ammo on an empty spot, and a virtual glow instantly swaps them for neatly stacked metal ingots. The entire process is incredibly smooth and fascinating. You see, a system transaction is always foolproof. With his new resources secured, he places the basic carriage blueprint on the processing station. A translucent screen pops up, confirming that the materials are ready. Once he hits construct, the wood, metal, and mechanical parts vanish, reassembling through some mysterious force at the rear of the train. The new carriage descends smoothly onto the tracks, connecting to the locomotive with a satisfying click. The system notifies him that construction is complete, mentioning he can further modify it with glass and fiber. For now, it is just a spacious, empty shell about 10 meters long. Roomy, bright, and exactly what he needs. It lacks glass in the window frames and has no external door, requiring entry through the rear of the locomotive, but it feels right. A train shouldn't just be an engine after all. He nods in satisfaction and checks his stats, deciding his stamina and mental energy are too low for further sublimation. He begins moving his supplies from the locomotive into the new carriage. He still has 40 minutes left on the countdown, plenty of time to return to the armory and gather whatever remains. His current stats sit at a weary 21 for stamina and 59 for mental energy, leaving him totally exhausted, completely drained. Inside, he lies motionless on the floor like a salted fish that has lost all hope of moving. Again, during these final moments, he drains his last reserves of strength, making 2 final round trips to the armory, but he hasn't forgotten his earlier promise. Despite the severe physical strain of hauling materials, he manages to use a shovel to dig a grave for those skeletal remains and even erects an unmarked tombstone as a final gesture of respect. That marks the conclusion of his harvest. Time's up. As the departure countdown hits 0, the previously stationary train begins to groan and slowly lurch forward. In front of the locomotive, those familiar spatial distortions reappear, and the train steadily accelerates through the boundary, returning once more to the endless expanse of the desolate wasteland. Simultaneously, the train's broadcast system crackles to life. It announces that all conductors have left the platform, congratulating the 9,892 individuals who successfully made it out of the first novice station. The voice then warns everyone that they have officially exited the newcomer safety period. Starting from the second station, there will no longer be a and just like that, the safety net is completely gone. This announcement triggers an immediate uproar in the chat. Some question the timing, wondering why they seemingly left the platform an hour later than expected, while others realize with deep frustration that someone must have stayed an extra hour at the first station. Some even start calling him a cheater, while others lament that they never realized the first station was actually safe. Several conductors share grim stories, like one whose first stop was a desert where They nearly perished in quicksand. He remains completely oblivious to their. He ignored their bickering, far too busy sitting on the floor organizing his latest haul. His inventory is looking pretty impressive, with 49 low-grade marksman rifles and 1,100 bullets, 150 kilograms of wood and metal. He also salvaged 160 mechanical parts, plus crowbars, shovels, and screwdrivers, dumping the broken ones straight into his recycler. The rest are kept as handy backups, now his blueprints. For the tank require 40 kilograms of metal and 110 mechanical parts, barely scratching his huge stockpile. Once the blueprints are ready, he allocates the required resources directly into the train control system. With the build approved, he orders the system to install the water tank inside the train carriage and mount the collector on the left exterior. When it is finished, he walks back to see a massive metal tank. With wheels standing in his carriage, it can hold 1,000 kilograms of water, using special dividers to keep clean and dirty supplies separate. He immediately pours in the 50 kilograms of dirty water from the armory, feeling slightly disappointed that he does not have a proper filtration set up yet. Still, he is not stressed and decides it is finally time to test the market by posting in the public chat room saying he wants to buy water, glass, fiber, and blueprints in exchange for food and high-powered guns. Just as expected, the mention of firearms triggers an absolute frenzy. Some users start begging for weapons, wondering if he is some elite upgrading his train, while others offer to become his loyal lackeys or try to guilt-trip him into sharing. He notices quite a few foreign names among the flooded private messages, realizing this brutal world must draw survivors from absolutely everywhere, maybe even from completely different dimensions of Earth. He instantly blocks the beggars and manipulators, no free handouts. Instead, he filters for real potential, finding a woman named Shangyuan Ying, who offers 20 kilograms of lake water, though she has no container. He replies to her with cold detachment, pointing out that raw lake water can be deadly without proper filtration. She needs to show more sincerity to get a rifle. Frustrated, she asks him to name his price. He demands 50 kilograms. Out here, clean water is far more precious than metal, especially since almost nobody has a way to store it. His real minimum was 30 kilograms of raw water for one gun. But he holds all the leverage. At the end of the day, he is only one man, and keeping too many firearms is useless. Trading them for bulk resources is his only logical move. Shangyuan Ying finally agrees to the 50 kilograms, sharply reminding him that he has to supply the storage containers. He wonders for a second if his asking price was actually too low, since she agreed so fast, but he never second-guesses his own choices. He locks in the deal, but then Shangyuan Ying quickly adds that she wants to trade for extra ammunition and food as well. This leaves him highly curious. Where is this woman getting so much water? Sure, she mentioned a lake, but having a massive supply is still wild. Her first stop likely bordered a lake, but how she stored it was a complete mystery. How, especially with that 3-hour docking period quickly running away. Both the trading platform and the chat would soon lock down. Had she found containers or built them from blueprints, he did not ask. Everyone has secrets here. He said his prices clearly, 5 low-grade bullets per kilogram of water, no container required. For food, he offered military compressed biscuits at 1 biscuit for 5 kilograms of water. She agreed immediately, requesting 100 bullets and 3 biscuits, which, along with the rifle from before, brought the trade to 85 kilograms of lake water. She asked if he needed to buy containers. He declined. It was not necessary, so he quickly initiated the transfer. The trade point materialized directly above his water tank. His firearms and bullets vanished, and 85 kilograms of water materialized out of thin air, pouring straight into the reservoir. That brought his total to 135 kilograms. He stared. The urge to drink was strong, but raw lake water was risky. Wasteland water was a death sentence. The transaction finished. They signed off, and she silently sent a friend request. He accepted without hesitation, no hesitation at all. Compared to that loudmouth Li Xiao Sheng, he preferred her quiet style. Selling off more rifles took up the next few hours. In exchange, he got the glass and fiber to reinforce his carriage. Proper glass panes soon filled the empty window frames. The drafty carriage became a proper room. Talk about a massive hall. By the end, he had 21 rifles left. He kept prices flexible, choosing to sell whenever a decent offer came his way. These basic weapons would only lose value over time. Hoarding them made no sense. Finally, he enjoyed a decent dinner. Eating traded bread and clean water made for a pretty decent dinner. He was too exhausted to stress about survival. He wanted sleep. As the train rumbled onward, he watched the high-hanging moon. Eventually, his eyes closed. He woke up shivering from the night chill, rubbing his eyes and stretching out his incredibly stiff neck. Outside, the desolate wasteland lay bathed in a cold, lonely light. He checked the clock, 3:37 a.m. The chat was still scrolling. It seemed very few people were able to sleep as soundly as him. Since sleep was out of the question, he dusted himself off and stood. His energy was fully restored. It was time for more sublimation. First up, the Colt M1911. It was already a masterpiece, but he was absolutely eager to see its upgraded potential on the train, especially since the next stop was guaranteed to be dangerous. He ordered the system to sublimate, feeling his stamina drain. The black frame developed elegant patterns, growing slightly larger. With a heavier grip, it was now a level 3 enchanted pistol, ready to consume his stamina to convert standard bullets into armor-piercing rounds. Spending 40 stamina points was a pretty fair trade-off. He set up some metal scraps as a makeshift target, took aim, and pulled the trigger. Channeling his energy, a deafening blast and blinding flash immediately followed. The heavy bullet ripped through the air, punching a clean hole through steel. He was absolutely floored. With that insane recoil, it barely felt like a pistol. Still, spending only 2 stamina points per shot made this a highly sustainable weapon. The system hinted at further upgrades, but he decided to hold off. With the heavy kickback, it was pushing the limits of his strength. Since he still had plenty of energy left, he walked straight into the new carriage. He touched the wall, calling for sublimation that cost only 25 stamina. Without draining any mental energy, the cold room transformed into a cozy level 2 carriage. Enchanted warmth kept the room at a steady 22 degrees Celsius. No matter how freezing it got outside, he was perfectly safe. Feeling highly satisfied, he grabbed his newly traded blanket and spread it on the floor. That heavy stamina drain turned out to be the absolute perfect cure for insomnia. He needed to conserve his remaining strength for the dangerous second stop tomorrow. While other poor souls stayed awake shivering in the wind, he slept peacefully until 10:27 a.m. Stretching out his stiff limbs, he started calculating their exact arrival timeline. Since they had entered the first station at exactly 1 p.m. yesterday, the next stop was near. However, he wondered if his 1-hour delay would push their arrival back. But the moment he stepped out of that warm cabin and returned to the locomotive, reality hit. Returning to the freezing locomotive, his control panel was absolutely flooded with messages. With a highly dangerous station approaching, the value of his weapons was skyrocketing. A direct message from a user named Lou immediately caught his eye. The guy wanted to know if blueprints could be used for trading. Before this, nobody traded blueprints because they acted as infinite production machines. Curious, he asked what Lou had and received a screenshot of a level 1 blueprint. Specifically a train seat. It was just a basic chair but a permanent asset. Without hesitating, he agreed to the trade, offering him a fully functioning gun and 10 bullets. He reasoned that while guns were precious right now, their value was temporary. Lou was incredibly grateful, practically begging to complete the deal. The man claimed that without a weapon, he would absolutely die tomorrow. Honestly, who wouldn't panic? Still, he suspected Lou had a danger-sensing talent. Rather than asking questions, he completed the trade and headed off. He headed straight over to the processing station to finally manufacture his brand new black chair. Sitting down felt amazing. He spent the last hour closing more deals. In total, he unloaded 15 rifles and 300 bullets, keeping the rest for protection. With 98 stamina and 100 spirit, his stats were looking solid. He grabbed one of his remaining standard rifles and immediately upgraded it for 13 points. This created a level 2 exquisite marksman rifle, though it lacked magic. Still, it was a massive upgrade as the arrival timer ticked down. The global chat fell dead silent 30 minutes before they arrived. Suddenly, his Crossroads of Fate module activated, offering him 2 distinct paths. He could choose the level 2 Goblin Camp or the White Forest. This time, the system interface actually provided a lot more details. Looking at the station levels, he wonders if the armory was just level 1 and if his train upgrade finally unlocked these higher-tier options. He chooses the White Forest. Assuming a collection platform is much safer than facing a goblin camp, suddenly the spatial fluctuations engulf the train, and 5 minutes later, they are completely surrounded by a grayish-white light. Outside the window lies a forest of bone-white trunks. In pale leaves, the system reports a 4-hour stay with a low-risk warning. Interestingly, no one in the chat has ever mentioned seeing these hazard ratings, so he suspects this is just another benefit of his exclusive module. He gears up, holstering his pistol and slinging the rifle over his shoulder, alongside a backpack full of supplies. When he presses the door release and steps out, the world is tomb silent. The quiet is so absolute he can actually hear his own pulse. He scans the deep white woods, wondering what exactly a collection platform has to offer besides simple timber. Then, through the silent trees, he spots what looks like a small path. He steps onto it and ventures deeper into the strange woods, his senses heightening with every step. He remains completely hypervigilant against potential threats the entire way, his hand never far from his weapon. Fortunately, the eerie silence remains unbroken as the path ends deep within the gray-white forest. A cluster of trees bearing pale, strange fruit comes into view. He wonders if these are the specific collection items the station has to offer. Approaching one of those trees, he uses his dagger to slice a stem and catches a fruit as it falls. When he brings it close to his nose, a sweet yet slightly bitter aroma wafts over. Scent unlike any fruit he had ever encountered in his previous world. He swallows hard, staring at it. The fragrance is so intoxicating that an inexplicable primal craving to devour the thing surges right through him, just as he is about to take a bite. A sudden sharp sense of danger snaps him back to reality. He hurls the fruit away instantly, his heart hammering against his ribs. He stands there panting, wondering what on earth just happened. A quick glance at his stats shows his stamina at 93, but his spirit has plummeted to 72. Cold sweat drenches his skin. His spirit was completely full just moments ago, yet it dropped drastically in the few seconds he held that fruit. He was not lacking food or water, so his sudden desperation to eat a poisonous object is entirely unnatural. The rate of spirit depletion is terrifying, faster even than during a sublimation. These fruits are a trap. He takes several steps back, frowning at the pale harvest. It is a nuisance that the train's appraisal function only works on board, but he suspects the low risk of the station is tied directly to these hallucinogens. Perhaps it is only the scent causing that lapse in judgment. After some hesitation, he decides he cannot leave empty-handed. He needs to get them back to the train for a proper analysis. He uses his dagger to rip a piece of cloth from his shirt, tying it over his nose and mouth as a makeshift mask. The old saying proves true: men die for wealth as birds die for food. Even knowing these fruits are lethal, he cannot bring himself to abandon them. He becomes a diligent farmer in that eerie, silent forest, harvesting until his backpack is heavy. As he wipes the sweat from his brow, he feels thankful for his dagger. Without it, this task would be far more difficult. Once back on the train, he immediately runs an appraisal. The system identifies them as Level 3 white forest fruits. In their raw state, they released a hallucinogenic scent that drains spirit, and eating them would permanently decrease a person's maximum spirit. However, if processed by soaking them in cold water for 5 minutes, they would rapidly restore spirit and slightly increase resistance to hallucinations. He patted his chest in pure relief, feeling as though he had narrowly escaped a disaster. It was a wake-up call. He thought he was being cautious, but he had to do better. He eagerly dumped the harvest into the water tank. After 5 minutes, they transformed from gray and white to a brilliant pure white. He took a bite, and an explosion of incredibly sweet juice filled his mouth. It was delicious, better than any fruit he had ever tasted. Compared to this, his dry bread and biscuits felt like cardboard. Joy sparked in his eyes, realizing the massive value here. He emptied his backpack of other supplies, grabbed his 2 guns and dagger, and set out again. Each round trip took about 20 minutes, and filling the bag took another 10. With only 4 hours, he had no time to waste. As he stepped outside, he noticed the trash recycling device he installed was actually running. A tiny, cube-shaped robot barely calf-high was shuttling back and forth between the forest and the train, bringing back leaves and stones. It seemed pretty useless to him, but since it was already built, he let it be. He he spent the next few hours as a whirlwind of activity, his dagger flashing as he stripped tree after tree. By the time the countdown reached its final 30 minutes, he had gathered over 100 pounds of fruit. It was a shame to leave without knowing if he would ever find something this delicious again, but he refused to let greed make him miss the train. He leaned back, munching on a fruit while he organized his stores. He had his harvest, 79 biscuits and 21 bottles of purified water. Survival was no concern for now. He opened the chat room to see how the others were faring, and the numbers immediately stopped him cold. 8,721 out of 10,000, more than 1,000. People were gone, and they were only at the second station. The messages were a chorus of misery, people dying from drinking unboiled lake water, others with punctured lungs from wild bull attacks, and many more begging for medicine or food. Modern medical luxuries were gone. A simple wound could be a death sentence, while he had used his crossroads of fate to find a safe collection zone. Others were chased by wild boars or trapped in toxic mud. As his own countdown neared its end, he remembered the little recycling robot. He figured if it found 10 kilograms of wood, it would be a miracle. Walking back to the station with zero expectations, only to freeze in his tracks. Among the trash lay a pale gray wooden box, a level 3 treasure chest. He could not believe his eyes. He had not dared venture deep into the woods for fear of getting lost, yet this little machine had wandered off and found exactly what he needed. He patted its square head with newfound appreciation, feeling a bit guilty for looking down on it. It was worth every resource he had spent. He resisted the urge to open it immediately. A level 3 chest, if upgraded, would become level 4, guaranteeing better coins and rarer items. His stats were at 45 stamina and 92 mental energy. He gave the command to the upgrade process begins, draining his very soul with that familiar pulling sensation. Once finished, he is physically exhausted but mentally soaring. He opens the level 4 treasure chest. Inside are 8 train coins, an external alarm tower system, white forest fruit seeds and gray paint scheme, and a ceramic bulletproof vest. He marvels at the loot. Incredible haul, knowing the global chat would turn green with envy, though he keeps his success completely private. Boasting only invites deadly enemies. He soon realizes he cannot upgrade these new items any further yet. The cost is too steep. It seems level 4 is a massive threshold. He immediately installs the alarm tower on his locomotive. It is a highly sophisticated defense system, designed to mount long-range weapons and fire automatically within 100 meters, even spotting invisible targets. He equips 5 of his remaining rifles onto it, feeling his sense of security surge immensely. The seeds require special white forest soil and 30 days to grow, consuming half a kilogram of fresh water daily, a very steep price indeed. But he is one of the rare survivors who can actually afford it. With only 3 minutes left, he scrambles to fill several crates with the gray soil required for the seeds. He also recycles the scrap his robot gathered, securing some extra wood. As the train starts rolling, he watches the pale forest slowly fade. He is back in the harsh wilderness, but he is far stronger than ever before. He takes a slow stretch, noticing his private inbox blinking. Only one person is currently on his friend list. It is Shangyuan Yinj. Asking him if he still needs fresh water, he immediately types a reply, laying down his boundaries clearly right from the start, asking what she wants, but warning her up front that he has absolutely no firearms left to trade with. He waits a while with no response, assuming she backed out. Just as he is about to exit, her message finally arrives. She apologizes for the long delay, explaining that she was busy taking a bath. A bath? He looks at his own water storage tank, completely stunned. Wait, how much water must she have to waste it so lavishly, even with his current success? He would never dream of being so wasteful. He says it is fine, asking what she wants in exchange for her water. Meanwhile, on the other side of the digital connection, inside Shangyuan Yinja's carriage, a black-haired girl with waist-length hair stands up from a massive wooden tub. As she ties up her long hair, her pale blue eyes remain calm and completely unreadable. She sends over a specific trade list, demanding 32 kilograms of wood, 50 kilograms of steel, and 40 mechanical parts. She adds that she is confident he has them. He raises an eyebrow at the message. He does not reply directly, questioning instead why she is so sure he has them and why he would even trade them instead of upgrading his train. She replies that she simply hates trouble, having gathered some materials already, but hating the hassle of dealing with too many desperate people. She calculated that he is the only survivor capable of bulk trades. After all, he sold over 20 rifles, meaning he had to be receiving tons of raw building materials in exchange for those weapons. She is absolutely correct. Little did she know he had already sold over 40 items, holding the resources she wanted, but trading them for simple water did not interest him anymore. His reserves were sufficient. He had even seen players in the chat discussing how to boil lake water, safe enough but not a method he wanted to rely on. Still, it made raw water less valuable. Shangyuan Yingsha dried herself off, staying silent for a while, then sent a screenshot that instantly changed his mind. It showed a level 1 water purification device capable of filtering wastewater at a rate of 1 kilogram per hour. He rubbed his eyes, staring. Something like this actually existed. It explained her lavish bathing, since she could simply filter and recycle the water. Given her willingness to trade it, he suspected she might even possess the blueprint. When he asked her, she did not confirm or deny anything, simply stating that the device itself should cover the resources she needed. He suppressed his surprise. Whatever secret she held, he was lucky enough to get this tech. He agreed, and once the transaction was complete, he found the device could be easily installed between his wastewater and clean water tanks. Once activated, the purified water would flow automatically into storage, saving him an immense amount of trouble. Naturally, he called upon sublimation, since it was a simple level 1 item. The energy drain was minimal. It transformed into a level 2 premium water purification device, tripling the output to 3 kilograms per hour and adding the ability to purify non-freshwater sources like seawater. Feeling a surge of goodwill, he sent her another message asking if she could upgrade her train and if she would be willing to share what her upgrade options looked like. He was curious to see if her choices matched his. She hesitated, but eventually sent a screenshot of her level 2 options. She had the basic carriage and the extended stop time, which were identical to his, but her random options were a welding tool set and a wooden bed blueprint. It confirmed his theory. The carriage and time extension were fixed, while the other choices were random and varied in quality. Her options were noticeably inferior to the ones he had been offered. As he nodded in understanding, she suddenly asked if he had any train coins. He told her he did not, and when she followed up by asking if he wanted to buy more water, his mouth twitched. Honestly, knowing she recycled her bath water, the idea of buying more from her felt completely unappealing. He declined, and the chat ended. He knew she wanted those coins to buy her own options, but he barely had enough for himself. He still had one critical choice left to make: the train burst acceleration device blueprint. It cost 5 train coins, an amount most players would take several stations to accumulate, but he had more than enough. He finalized the purchase, leaving him with 4 coins. The device required 50 kilograms of metal and 200 mechanical parts to build, allowing him to produce acceleration bullets that could triple the train speed for 10 minutes. It was expensive, but undoubtedly worth the cost. The trading platform was becoming more diverse after the second station, but food and water remained the most desperate needs for the majority. Those barrels of compressed biscuits he had looked down on were suddenly looking like a gold mine. He shook his head. Yi Qian glanced at the resources he had finally managed to scrape together. He traded 7 biscuits and plenty of effort to get those mechanical parts from others. Now he understood why Shang Wu and Ying Shuer hated trading. Haggling with players and constantly adjusting prices over tiny scraps of food was a pointless waste of time. He fed the materials into the processing station, and the blueprint for the acceleration device began emitting a deep sapphire glow. Right before him, metal and machinery fused, coalescing into a complex mechanical heart. The system noted the train burst acceleration device could only be installed on the main carriage near the controls. Once integrated, it would produce speed bullets limited to 3 uses a day. His heart sank slightly at the steep cost: 1 kilogram of metal, 20 mechanical parts, and 1 train coin per bullet, even the ammunition required currency. He wondered what a little sublimation would do to it. With his stamina at 55 and spirit at 70, after eating some white forest fruits, he had enough for a try, so he poured 30 stamina and 40 spirit into it. He watched it transform into the red, triple-speed train acceleration device. The maximum capacity jumped to 5 bullets daily, though the potential for further sublimation was now completely exhausted, following the system prompt. He placed it near the control panel. A silvery light swallowed the device, and a sleek black loading port materialized on the console. It was a pricey investment. He spent 2 of his remaining coins to produce 2 silvery shells, each as thick as a baby's arm. He winced at the expense, tucking his last 2 coins away. He was tempted to test the speed, but did not feel that extravagant yet. It was time to rest. As he drifted off, he could not help but wonder if those low spirit side effects were just empty threats. Talk about playing with fire. He had not felt a thing. When he woke, his stats were fully restored to 100. He stretched in the warmth of the climate-controlled carriage, washing his face while humming a quiet tune. Walking to the back, he checked on the seed he had buried in the ashen soil. It was unchanged, so he decided to see if sublimation could jumpstart its growth. It cost him 30 stamina points. But the result was a blessed white forest fruit seed. The growth cycle plummeted from 30 days to just 3 to sprout and 3 to mature. Better yet, it would produce 1 blessed fruit daily once ripe. He buried it back in the dirt and gave it some water, feeling quite satisfied. On his way back to the front, he stopped by the garbage recycling robot. He had promised to upgrade the little guy after all. He crouched down and knocked on its oversized matchbox head, calling for sublimation. Strangely, the stamina he funneled into it simply vanished with no effect. Frowning at the first failure he had encountered, he tried again, this time using spirit. At the cost of 40 spirit points, a familiar radiance enveloped the machine. It emerged as the GT-1 automatic treasure hunting robot. Its purpose was clear. It would automatically leave the train at stations to find treasure chests, mapping out the ones it could not carry back. It would cost 1 train coin per run, forcibly returning before the train departed. Camel eyes popped from the box, rotating a full 360 degrees. Before locking onto his face to confirm his identity, it asked for a name, and he could not help but think of an old movie character, naming it Wally. It immediately entered sleep mode, waiting for a coin to wake it up later. Between buying the acceleration bullets and the robot, he felt like he was burning cash fast. Heading straight for financial ruin, he realized most people at this stage had no clue. They probably did not understand the true value of train coins yet. Most were still just trying to find enough bread to survive, so he checked the chat. His suspicions were right, seeing players open chests and wonder what these coins were for. Wondering if they were just future station currency, he saw his chance to strike. He put up a trade, offering 1 compressed biscuit and a water bottle per coin. If someone took the bait, great. If not, no loss. Soon 12:30 arrived. The familiar crossroads of fate prompt popped up, forcing him to choose. He could pick the level 2 Goblin Village, a hunting station, or Doomsday Town. To him, a mission station sounded like a brand new, lucrative opportunity. It was way better than the mindless chore of hunting goblins, so he chose. The train lurched forward, accelerating. The world ahead dissolved into pure white noise. Once the countdown hit 0, the massive transformation of his surroundings was complete. Looking out at Doomsday Town, the 4-hour docking countdown began its crawl. He felt the system's final warning heavy in the air. Yeah, this place was bad news. It was officially labeled as dangerous. The train hissed to a silent halt. Peering through the glass, he carefully surveyed his brand new and hostile surroundings. This place was a stark contrast to the pitch-black darkness before. Instead, a harsh sun hung high in the sky, casting a brilliant, unforgiving light. The landscape was haunting, with deep red stains marring the asphalt streets. Rows of rusted, abandoned cars choked the main thoroughfares. Doomsday Town indeed. The name fit perfectly. Turning to his small companion, it was time for Wally to get to work. He winced, dropping a precious train coin in. He watched the little bot wobble right out through the recycling chute. Part of him worried some lurking monster might mistake it for a toy. But he had his own problems, namely figuring out his mission task. The answer to his quest presented itself soon enough through the window. He spotted a corpse slumped nearby, cold fingers clutching a worn backpack. A piece of parchment tucked inside flapped violently in the dry wind. It was too far away to read, so he did a final gear check. He had food, fresh water, and his finely crafted rifle slung secure. His black gloss pistol and sharp dagger sat ready at his waist. Most importantly, he wore the advanced ceramic bulletproof vest he scavenged. He had already sublimated the armor, streamlining it from its bulky frame. It was now a form-fitting vest that sacrificed zero protective capability. Fully armed, he pressed the door release. The metal doors hissed open wide. Stepping out, he instinctively closed them behind him with a quick wrist flick. Only conductors could operate these doors, keeping his mobile base completely secure. No unwanted guests could sneak inside. Immediately, a wave of scorching heat hit him, carrying a foul, nauseating stench of decay and rot. It smelled of rotten salted fish. Approaching the corpse, he used his rifle barrel to nudge the backpack open so he could read the parchment. The note claimed the dead man was a legendary courier for the Run Company. No greatness was left, just rotting bones, but the writer. He clearly had a pretty dark sense of humor, noting they were probably doomed to die but insisting that the mission must never fail. The task was simple, just deliver the bag's contents to a silverware shop in the southeast corner of town, promising a massive reward from the company if he showed the badge. It was go time. Curious, he looked inside the bag and found a cake sealed in a plastic box, remarkably well preserved. Happy birthday was written across it in jam, judging by the state of the body. That birthday was long forgotten. He decided that while the party was over, the cake was still a prize. He also found a strange mechanical badge featuring a gear-driven running courier and a map of the town with a red dot marking his destination. Map in hand, he began his trek. The road was a graveyard of skeletons and old bloodstains that whispered of horrors. Suddenly, he spotted movement, a hyena feeding on a corpse. It was the first living creature he had seen here, or so he thought, until it turned its head. Its skull was rotted completely through, exposing a pulsing heart. It was no ordinary dog. It was a zombie. The beast growled and lunged. Stay calm, he told himself, fighting down the rising panic in his chest, and raised his pistol, pulling the trigger repeatedly. He was no expert marksman, but at close range, one bullet found its mark. The impact was devastating, blowing the creature to pieces. He had to move fast. The gunfire would act like a dinner bell for every monster nearby. Taking a quick detour, he reached the silverware shop without further trouble. To his surprise, the area was eerily quiet. He stood before the tightly shut metal door, wondering if anyone was still alive to receive this package. Just as he considered prying it open, the shutter slid up a crack. He immediately aimed his rifle at the gap. A hoarse voice begged him not to shoot, claiming to be human. He stayed back, identifying himself as a Run Company courier, taking over the delivery, and showed the badge. In this wasteland, a professional title commanded way more respect than some random stranger. A scruffy bearded man in his 40s peered out, chuckling that only couriers, lunatics, and monsters were brave enough to be outside these days. He invited him inside, but he kept his rifle aimed at his head, taking no chances. He handed over the cake and demanded the reward. The man stared at the cake with a pained expression, muttering that it was a pity he had not come earlier. He retreated into the shop and returned with a box. Inside were 3 train coins. This confirmed his suspicions. These coins were likely the universal currency across all station worlds, but as he reached for the coins, the man's face shifted instantly. He lunged forward, grabbing the barrel of his rifle with clear murderous intent. No hesitation, our guy pulled the trigger. A blast echoed, a severed hand flew, and the rolling shutter burst open. The man behind the door was no longer human. He had swollen into a grotesque monster, his face twisted in a mask of grief and rage, screaming about his daughter just wanting a cake, cursing all useless couriers for taking 2. Calming his breath, he centered his mind and kept firing those rounds. But the beast's thick hide shrugged off the rifle's power. The massive monster slammed a heavy fist into his chest, sending him flying backward instantly. He struggled back to his feet, coughing with a churning stomach. Without his enhanced vest, that brutal blow would have killed him. The shrieking beast charged forward again, mockingly claiming that those simple bullets did not scare him. He smirked and told the mocking beast to look down immediately. The creature suddenly froze in shock, seeing his own flesh riddled with deep, unfelt bullet holes. His special blacklight pistol pulsed with an eerie, dark glow. His enchanted blacklight pistol converted his stamina directly into deadly armor-piercing rounds with every shot. Stepping close, he pressed the cold muzzle against the beast's forehead. One final loud bang echoed through the empty streets, and absolute silence returned once again. This massive monster was clearly the king of this entire quiet territory. After catching his breath, he quickly retrieved the birthday cake and 3 shiny train coins. Feeling a brief pang of regret, he opened the store's shutter. Inside, the clean silverware shop was fully stocked with rare silver bolts and heavy spearheads. On a shelf, he found a diary telling a heartbreaking story. A father tried buying a sweet cake for his sick daughter. Tragically, by March 15th, the grieving father had completely lost his sanity from the loss. He walked out to the backyard and placed the cake by her tiny tombstone. It felt like the only truly respectful way to finish this tragic mission once and for all. The diary left him with a chilling thought about a broken locomotive. Could it have belonged to another train conductor who arrived in this town before them? The dark realization that they were not the first survivors weighed heavily on him. He quickly scavenged a heavy crossbow alongside several valuable silver items from the quiet shop. On his return trip, the town felt much more crowded with dangerous monsters. He truly needed every minute of that extra hour his upgrade provided. Strangely, he spotted plenty of dangerous zombie animals, but absolutely no undead humanoids walking around. Back at his train with 35 minutes left, he checked his rich haul. He quickly recycled various useless scrap items into 10 kilograms of incredibly valuable raw metal. This raw metal would have been worth a massive fortune in his old world. He decided to upgrade his mythal cross into a level 3 relic that radiated holy light. When it came to the other weapons, he honestly knew his own limits. He was absolutely no skilled swordsman, and his crossbow aim was even worse than his pistol. After hanging the cross up, he checked the active trading platform. To his absolute delight, another player had accepted his deal for precious train coins. Only 7,825 players remained. Out of 10,000, another 1,000 human lives were gone forever. Most desperate players were still struggling just to find their next meal and basic essentials. While he sat on a massive pile of mythal, others faced pure terror. The global chat room was completely flooded with terrifying stories from the dangerous third station. One user spoke of a cave crawling with spiders that they avoided entirely. Another user proudly boasted of using a purchased gun to easily defend against wild dogs. His interest was piqued when someone in chat suddenly mentioned an expert. It seemed his legendary reputation was growing, though some skeptics quickly dismissed him. Short-sighted in that his big brother, Lai Zio Shang, was the true authority. Claiming Lai Zio Shang was about to reach level 2, he remembered him. Shang, the man, had confidently predicted reaching level 2 within 3 stations. But wait, they were already at the 3rd stop. It was a hilarious boast. He posted a screenshot of his upgrade options, inviting others to join his alliance. All they needed were train coins, food and water were promised. Recruits, he ignored the posturing. Instead, he focused entirely on the data. Included a carriage blueprint, an automatic fishing rod, a survival rations recipe, and the 1-hour stop extension. He suspected this exact match. The 1st and 4th options were identical to his clear pattern. While the rations were useless, that fishing rod seemed pretty interesting. Perhaps for future water stations, for now he felt no rush. With his Crossroads of Fate module, he had a 30-minute head start. Anyway, it was time. He needed to consider another train sublimation now. Stamina recovery came first, but now his train coins were piling up. With his silver shop bounty, he had 4 coins. What if Wally found a chest here? He would be in an even stronger position. As he prepared, the rhythmic clanking of treads outside caught his attention. He looked out. Wally was wobbling back through the recycling chute, clutching a box. Stained with dark red, the poor robot was covered in bite marks. Clearly from something vicious, far worse than a normal wild animal. He looked out. Dozens of zombie dogs were circling his train, followed by lumbering mutated humanoids similar to the shop owner he had killed. He gave Wally's metal head a helpless tap. Troublesome little robot. It had led the horde straight to his door. Still, a level 2 chest was a great prize. He could not stay mad. He picked up the box, completely unconcerned by the growing horde outside. This was only level 2. And his train possessed a level 4 defensive sentry tower, high-tech defense. As they crossed the 100-meter perimeter, the red orb locked on. Crimson circles painted the ground as long rifle barrels extended from the shadows. The air filled with the steady crack of gunfire, each shot found a lethal weak point. Within 10 seconds, the clearing was littered. Corpses he watched with a detached calm, munching on a white forest fruit as more monsters swarmed in, only to have skulls shattered by the sentry's perfect marksmanship. When the countdown hit 0, the train Lurched forward, they slipped into the void, leaving Doomsday Town far behind. The endless wilderness returned. Soon, the onboard broadcast chimed, announcing that the newbie protection period was over. Survival mode was now active, and the voice warned everyone to be cautious. Any train moving slower than 30 kilometers per hour entered danger status. The chat room erupted in panic, but he focused on his own notifications. He had achieved an A-grade elimination rating for the station, completing the hidden mission, Town Liberator. His reward was a carriage ticket. He patted Wally's head, realizing he would have missed this entirely without the little robot's mistake. Eager to sublimate, he started transforming it into a special exchange prize ticket for a level 2 special car. Once activated, a basic storage car descended from the sky and locked right onto his train. It was exactly what he needed, 48 units that could store unlimited quantities of items, finally clearing the massive clutter from his living quarters. But he was not done yet. He walked to the back of the new car and initiated another sublimation to push it to level 3. The cost was brutal, 25 stamina and 25 mental energy, dragging him straight back into exhaustion. Yet the result was a storage car that not only kept his items from decaying, but offered 3 special compartments that were completely accessible from absolutely anywhere. It was essentially a unique portable inventory. He tested it by throwing some fruit into a unit and successfully summoning it right back into his hand inside the locomotive. This was an incredible upgrade. Fatigue dragged at him, but he still had that level 2 chest Wally had found for him. Pushing through the brain fog, he spent 45 more mental energy points to upgrade it into a level 3 chest. System warnings for mental collapse flashed red in his vision, but he felt nothing but a heavy, numbing fatigue. He cracked the box open to find 6 train coins, a zombie slayer chainsaw sword, 3 virus serums, and a windproof lighter, with 10 train coins now in his possession. He was probably the wealthiest conductor alive. Talk about hitting the jackpot. He had the resources to grab every single upgrade option when his train leveled up, but his body was screaming for rest. He had pushed himself to the absolute limit, hitting a state of pure exhaustion he had never ever known before. While he slept, the rest of the world scrambled. Conductors were desperately trading for metal and parts to upgrade their rides, scrambling to reach the 30 kilometers per hour safety threshold, even if it meant ruining their long-term progress. Meanwhile, Lizio sat in his carriage with a dark expression. He had a resource radar ability that let him pinpoint materials, yet somehow, someone else was always faster. The sharp rhythmic cracks of gunfire suddenly tore right through the wilderness, so loud that he forced his heavy eyelids open. Instinctively, he glanced out the window, and his heart skipped a beat. Dozens of glowing crimson eyes were cutting through the pitch black night, relentlessly chasing the train. The sheer terror of the sight snapped him wide awake. He scrambled to the front of the locomotive, finding that his automated alert system was already humming to life, its red sensors swiveling. Then it suddenly hit him. He recalled the grim announcement that followed the 3rd station. This was the nighttime danger. The system identified the pursuers as level 1 Blood Moon Wolves, noting their speed at 25 kilometers per hour. Seeing that, the tight tension in his chest finally loosened slightly. As long as the train stayed above 30 kilometers per hour, he was not technically in any danger of being overtaken, since his level 2 train always cruised at 40 kilometers per hour. Those beasts had no hope of catching him. He splashed some freezing water on his face, letting the cold air from the vents clear the last of the thick fog from his exhausted brain. Sleepiness was gone. It was 1:44 in the morning. He opened the global chat room to check on the others, but as he saw the numbers, his pupils contracted in absolute shock. Only 4,130 out of 10,000 survivors remained, he vaguely remembered. The count being around 7 or 8,000 earlier that day. That meant over half of the entire population had vanished in mere hours. 4,000 people had been slaughtered in the wilderness while he slept, and that grim number kept ticking down. A chill unrelated to the weather suddenly crept down his spine. The pitch-black night was far deadlier than the stations. Anyone who had not managed to upgrade their speed was basically served up as easy prey. Only those surviving this terrifying night could truly call themselves survivors. And it was clear his days of hiding inside the train were over. To survive, they had to explore, harvest, and upgrade, or die. A notification blinked in his private chat. It was Shangyu and Yingshuer asking if he was still alive. he told her. He had just woken up and asked if she wanted to trade. She was looking for bullets, but he had to turn her down. Between the third station massacre and the Alert Tower's defense, he had burned through over 70 rounds. He only had about 300 left, and he could not risk selling his own safety. She asked if he owned a bullet blueprint, and when he said he did not, she offered characteristically decisive goodbye. Their quick talk was refreshingly simple. He sat back and checked his personal stats, noticing something impossible. His spirit had recovered to 110. He rubbed his eyes, pinching himself to make sure he was not dreaming, but the sting was real. His spirit cap had actually increased. He could not recall doing anything special before bed besides crashing from pure exhaustion. But he pushed the confusion aside. An increased cap was a gift, and honestly, who would argue with that? He was not going to question it. It was time. Having cleared 3 stations, the train was ready. He touched the controls and felt his stamina and spirit drain rapidly. While the first upgrade was cheap, this one was a massive drain. His stamina dropped to 52 and his spirit to 50, but the notification confirmed the success. The train was now level 3. He glanced at the requirements for level 4 and felt a massive headache coming on. 300 kilograms of wood, 300 parts. Another 450 kilograms of metal, plus rare gold mithril and a fire stone. He turned his attention to the immediate rewards. His speed had jumped to 60 kilometers per hour, and the chassis, wheels, and frame were now level 3. But those real prizes were the upgrade options and the record-breaking module card he just earned. He opened the options, finding a conductor card. Early departure, a level 3 bullet blueprint, and a generator. Blueprint, talk about perfect timing. He desperately needed bullets. And that generator would be vital later. With only 10 coins, he could not afford everything, so he had to be strategic. He spent 8 coins on early departure privileges, the bullet blueprint, and some extra docking time. The bullet blueprint required metal and gunpowder, but since gunpowder was scarce on the trading platform, he decided to wait on manufacturing. Instead, he focused on this early departure module. He immediately upgraded it, turning it into the VIP early departure privilege, which allowed him to leave any station whenever the docking clock hit the final 3 hours. Finally, he looked at the new conductor module card. It was blood red with an abstract eye pattern, looking far more ominous than before. However, he was running on fumes. The endless cycle of survival had left him utterly drained. So he decided to hold on to the mysterious card and finally let heavy sleep take him. While he slept, the chat turned into a graveyard of desperate pleas. People realized that 30 kilometers per hour was barely enough to survive, while monsters kept getting faster. By 6:30 a.m., a new broadcast chilled everyone to the bone. The second survival night starts in 3 days, putting anyone under 40 kilometers per hour in serious danger. A level 2 upgrade was now mandatory for survival. Li Zioshen watched this mounting panic with a smug grin. With his resource radar talent, he felt untouchable, using the chaos to expand his alliance by promising upgrades. He wondered if the protagonist was the one who beat him to the first upgrade, sending him a friend request arrogantly, assuming he would jump at the chance. Meanwhile, the protagonist woke at 8:34 a.m., feeling the ache of sleeping on the hard floor. He ate a white forest fruit, tended his sapling, and checked the clock. That 40 kilometers per hour target did not bother him, but the weather did. The sky was choked with heavy, oppressive clouds that seemed to weigh down on the world. He took the red conductor module card in hand. His stamina sat at 82, mental energy at 110. It was time. He activated his talent and whispered the command to sublimate. The card transformed into an advanced conductor module, judgment of gunfire. As the energy settled, strange new clarity flooded his mind. He drew his pistol, and the usual weight and clumsiness were totally gone. He felt like a master marksman with decades on the range. This module allowed him to spend mental energy to judge a target, dealing damage based on their sins. Talk about overpowered. Every single shot from now on would strike exactly where he wanted, directly receiving the skills of a sharpshooter. Changed everything. With this mastery, he felt that if he encountered those zombie monsters again, there would be no more frantic hiding and dodging of the past. After digesting his rewards, he idly munched on some fruit while opening the private chat interface. Given his growing reputation among the survivors, he expected others might proactively seek him out for trades. It would be a shame to miss potential blueprints or train coins. He spotted a familiar name, Lai Zio Shan, the three-station guy. He was inviting him to join an alliance, but the idea felt incredibly unreliable to him. But hey, business is business, so he accepted the request anyway. Though they were not cut from the same cloth, he figured the guy likely had train coins, and trading with him was fine as long as he did not get too involved. On the other side, Lai Zio Shan was busy competing for fishing rod sales when he noticed the acceptance. He seemed to think the protagonist finally decided to reach out to him out of necessity. He cut straight to the point, asking if he was finished making those fishing rods. Lai Zio Shan dodged at first, asking if he completed his demand for the price. He offered to give him one for free, provided he joined the alliance. The terms were a contribution of 5 kilos of wood or 1 train coin in exchange for daily rations and a rod. He went on long-winded speech about how his supplies would eventually run out and how they should arm his members to become the strongest faction. He calmly finished his fruit while reading the pitch before typing back a simple ultimatum. Was he selling the rods or not? Lai Zio Shan was not the only source. Someone else had found a mechanical fishing rod blueprint at the first station, and when since the first guy stopped responding, he doesn't waste time waiting. He finds another seller, a man named Ziolan, and the deal is refreshingly fast. For 20 mechanical hearts and 1 biscuit, he gets his hands on a fully automated mechanical fishing rod. It is way better than wood. He immediately triggers a sublimation, upgrading it into an alluring, basic mechanical fishing rod that needs absolutely no bait and easily lures in fish. As he sets the tool aside, he notices Jalen sent him a friend request and accepts it. At 12:30 p.m., a massive roar of thunder splits the dark sky. From his cozy, climate-controlled train car, he watches heavy black clouds choke the atmosphere. 1 drop falls and then it pours. The train announcement system crackles to life, declaring a thunderstorm day, warning everyone that the next station has the exact same weather. It is pretty weird that wasteland weather can even affect these stations, which usually feel like completely different worlds. He checks his Crossroads of Fate menu for the 4th station. His choices are the level 3 Thunderstrike Goblin Tribe, a hunting station, or the level 3 Mist Vale Manor, which is a mission station. The levels are clearly rising, and this weird connection to goblins makes him wonder, but there is absolutely no way he wants to step into a dangerous hunting zone right now. No thank you. Instead, he chooses the manor despite his terrifying run-in at Doomsday Town. Risky. The train accelerates, space dissolves, darkness and heavy thunder swallow the engine. Upon arrival, the docking countdown starts at 5 hours, along with a grim warning label, hazardous. Peering through the glass, he sees they are on a shattered mountain highway during a massive storm. Lightning flashes, showing a smoking police car. Seeing uniformed bodies lying around, he hopes he isn't facing zombies again. Nobody wants that nightmare. He activates while E feeds it one of his precious remaining train coins and watches the small robot wobble out into the storm. He makes his final survival prep, checking his inventory space for food, ammunition, and those blessed virus serums, which basically work like high-grade healing potions. Packed with his pistol, rifle, blade, vest, and that mythical cross while wearing a traded raincoat, he steps out into the heavy rain. He loots the smashed police car and the dead officers. They are not rising, which is a relief. Near one officer, he finds a voice recorder. The tape mentions a wealthy tycoon named Ravi, who died at Rainville Villa up on Davo Mountain. The cops were clearly hesitant to investigate that far-off place, but the tycoon's daughter offered some serious funding. They even planned to frame a maid if they could not find the actual culprit. It feels like a pretty straightforward quest. He recovers 2 cheap pistols and some basic ammo, throwing them back into his train because they are useless to him. Grabbing the dead chief's badge and ID card, he marches up the winding road. In 15 minutes, he reaches the towering iron gates of a massive black estate. A panicked guard rushes out, and the fake ID is more than enough to get him inside. The guard begs him to hunt down the true killer, swearing the maid is responsible for the master's death. The guard explains that Ravi actually died 4 nights ago, but they couldn't call for help until 3 days ago due to the storm. It sounded like a classic locked room mystery, but a level 3 station. He couldn't believe it would be so mundane. As they approach the castle, a sudden, shrill scream Echoed from above, a female corpse plummeted through the air and crashed. Onto the lawn, in a sudden flash of lightning, he saw a shadow. That definitely wasn't human. The mythal cross on his chest burned hot. The guard shrieked that the maid was dead. An elderly butler ran out, and the terrified guard fled into the storm, accusing the old butler of being the killer. Sighed the butler, calling him chief and noting his youthful appearance. He picked up the maid's body, tossing it into one of 5 pre-dug graves on the lawn. 3 were already occupied. He invited him inside, and that same creepy feeling of being watched made his skin crawl. Inside, he requested hot water and pressed the butler for the truth. He explained that after the master died 4 days ago, the siblings fought. The daughter was found dead the next morning. That drove the guard mad. On day 3, the young master died. 2, the butler admitted he expected to die soon as well, which explained those 5 graves. He warned him that the estate was cursed, telling him he should leave. Those bloodshot eyes under the flickering candlelight were deeply unsettling. The mystery had clearly turned supernatural. He gripped his cross, knowing he would have fled already if he didn't have it. He asked why he stayed, and the butler gave a mournful smile. He couldn't leave. The gates simply wouldn't let him pass. He had warned the guard to keep him out, but it was too late. He apologized. If the young chief got trapped here too, the butler would gladly dig a grave for him too. What did he mean by this curse? The old butler stood stunned, his eyes fixed on the young chief's face. Despite his youth, there was no trace of the expected fear. He asked, almost in disbelief, if he wasn't afraid. The chief simply stood up, eyes tracking the solid wooden stairs spiraling into the upper reaches of the castle. He mentioned a detail he had forgotten to mention. Besides being a police chief, he also worked part-time as a priest. Since things had come to this, he explained he wouldn't be leaving easily. To prove it, he pulled the mythal sanctuary cross from his pocket. A gentle, holy light immediately surged forth, dispelling the gloom and casting him in a divine glow that made him look like the messenger of a god. The old man's mouth dropped open. He rubbed his eyes hard, staring at him like he was a miracle. It took a long moment to regain his senses. After the light faded, the chief cleared his throat to get his attention. The old man finally gasped a plea to heaven, declaring they were saved. With his identity as a part-time priest firmly established, the butler wasted no time spilling the manor's dark history. Turns out, the original owner was a bloodthirsty madman who had once used his own maid as a scapegoat for his crimes, throwing her to a corrupt police chief who tortured and executed her. Following her death, the manor was swallowed by an eternal storm of thunder and rain. When it finally cleared, every soul inside, including that treacherous chief, had died horribly. Over the next 30 years, the manor changed hands a dozen times, and every owner met a violent end on a rainy night. Ravi, the current owner, had been a total miser who didn't believe in ghosts. He saw a tax-free mansion at a bargain price and couldn't resist. Now the cycle was repeating: the rain, the isolation, and the deaths. The butler noted that the only difference this time was they'd successfully reached him, hoping he could finally break the curse. He asked him where the first maid had died, and he pointed toward the clock tower at the highest point of the castle. He already knew his path. This curse was likely a restless spirit bound to stone and soil, and as long as his cross could overpower it, the mission was as good as solved. He didn't dwell on the possibility of failure. That kind of thinking was pointless. He took an oil lamp and followed the butler up the stairs. The castle was a symphony of cold, damp echoes and the rhythmic dripping of leaks, but when they reached the clock tower, the cross in his palm began to pulse with a sudden, intense heat. He knew they had arrived. The butler stayed back, paralyzed by fear, so he gritted his teeth and stepped into the tower alone. The moment he crossed the threshold, he felt something lock onto him, rushing through the air at high speed. He didn't panic. He simply told it to get lost as the Meathil sanctuary cross unleashed a blinding soft light. Piercing scream shattered the night, followed by the metallic clang of something hitting the floor. He looked down to see a smooth, translucent skull resting at his feet. He blinked. Was that really it? He pinched his thigh to make sure he wasn't dreaming. The pain was real. He searched the room, finding nothing else. Talk about an easy win. Looking at the cross, he realized he'd probably underestimated its power. For anyone else, this place would have been a death trap, but his ability to sublimate the level 2 Meathil cross into this sanctuary version had given him a weapon the world hadn't prepared for. He exhaled deeply, picking up the skull, even if he didn't know its purpose yet. He wasn't about to leave a level 3 drop behind. When he emerged, the butler was nearly white with ghost pale terror, but he reassured him that the curse was lifted and showed him the skull as proof. He stammered out his gratitude, though the thunderstorm outside continued unabated. He knew the spirit hadn't caused the storm had likely birthed the spirit. Since the manor seal was gone, and he'd only been here for an hour, he decided to make the most of his time. This was a wealthy man's home, and while there weren't trained coins or weapons lying around, it had something far more vital. Real food. He was tired of biscuits and fruit. He wanted a real meal. The butler led him to a safe and presented a pure red gemstone, a priceless treasure Ravi had found in his youth. He insisted he take it as a reward, adding that since the master was gone, he was free to take anything else he liked. That was music to his ears. He weighed the cool, smooth gem in his hand and told him he'd be heading down the mountain soon, but first he needed to restock his supplies. He raided the kitchen, finding a fridge full of fresh meat, eggs, and vegetables. He began making round trips to the train every 20 minutes, hauling back as much as he could carry. The butler, busy tying up the crazed security guard, looked startled when he reappeared for the third time. He asked if there was a problem with the curse. He casually told him that the almighty god was just hungry. On his final trip, the butler called out to him at the iron gate. The guard and butler bowed deeply, handing him a wooden box tied with ribbon, explaining that he did not care if the house was emptied, but hated letting him leave. Without this, inside were 3 train coins, a rare currency. For the run company, the name sent a massive jolt through him, so this group from Doomsday Town was no fluke. He couldn't solve that mystery just yet. Back to the train he went, shedding his wet raincoat and grinning at his massive pile of fresh food and new kitchenware. He stored it all safely away to prevent spoilage and immediately firing up the grill for a thick premium steak. While it sizzled, he set containers to catch fresh rainwater and organized his haul. The skull was now a purified earthbound object, a level 3 item to ward off evil, while the ruby was a level 1 valuable. He decided to sublimate the skull immediately, feeling his stamina and spirit completely drain until he was running on empty. It transformed into a perfectly smooth, glowing jade stone, a level 4 pure earthbound stone. The thing was a total powerhouse, nullifying all evil spirits below its level and absorbing negative effects meant for him. It still had room for more, but that was a task for later. With 42 minutes left on the clock, he was enjoying his steak when a familiar wobble sounded. While Ally emerged from the recycling chute with a blood-stained gift box, a level 3 treasure chest. He patted his head, promising him some oil later before the helper went back to hibernate. There was no reason to linger. He commanded the train to depart. As they accelerated through the void and back into the wild, the station chat room erupted. Honestly, people were losing their minds over the news that monsters would now attack during the day and newbie protection was officially gone. He ignored the chatter about whether anyone had actually reached level 3. Yet let them eat their words later. Station 4 had a lower death toll with only about 1,000 casualties, but the desperation in the chat was palpable. He focused on the level 3 chest, using his remaining energy to sublimate it into level 4. He speared a piece of steak and wiped his hands, waiting for the lid to open. His last level 4 chest had yielded the watchtower. He could only hope this one was just as good. Watch this. A familiar notification chimed as the level 4 treasure chest popped open, along with 8 train coins. He found an observer blueprint, a safety bracelet, and a wind-up monkey doll bomb. Blueprint, all level 4, alongside a mysterious item called a profane card. Fragment, seeing 2 level 4 blueprints in a single pull was a stroke of luck that far surpassed his previous openings. He eagerly examined the new acquisitions. The observer blueprint required a mix of metal, wood, mechanical parts, and electronic components. Once installed, it would act as a full security system, monitoring every single inch of the train and sounding an alarm the moment any foreign presence was detected. It was an excellent setup, though he would need to scour the trading platform for those electronic components. The safety bracelet was even more straightforward, but perhaps even more vital. Its brief description promised to block a single fatal blow before shattering. In this brutal world, survival is the only real currency that actually matters. As he slid the protective bracelet onto his right wrist, an inexplicable sense of safety washed over him. The monkey doll bomb, however, presented a massive logistical headache, making it required a lot of gunpowder, 400 grams each, since 100 bullets used only 500 grams total. The cost was incredibly steep, shaking his head in pure frustration over having blueprints without the right materials. He realized he had to take matters into his own hands to buy what he needed. His focus then shifted to that black and gold shard, which was just 1/3 of the whole, labeled as a profane card fragment. The system showed he needed 3 to build the full card, though the final function remained a total mystery. It clearly was not something ordinary, and getting 2 more fragments would likely require finding more level 4 chests, a pretty daunting task. Even with his high luck, checking the trading platform, he found the market was as chaotic as ever, tiny quantities and wildly inconsistent. Predatory pricing were the norm, and he had zero interest in being played for a fool just because he had deep pockets. Seriously capable survivors were no longer just throwing away crucial materials like gunpowder. To get actual results, he had to speak to the entire server directly. He spent 1 train coin to pin a message in the global chat, offering a choice of compressed biscuits and water or a fresh tomato for every 200 grams of gunpowder. He posted a similar trade for essential electronic parts, offering a bottle of water and 1 biscuit for every 10. Now, while most survivors had plenty of water after the thunderstorm event, his offer included the comfort of sweet treats and the luxury of fresh produce. He had hauled 3 crates of fresh tomatoes from the 4th station's manor, like old-school sailors. Everyone here was on a long, brutal voyage where scurvy was a very real threat. The chat exploded immediately. Some were completely shocked by the pinned post. Others were scandalized that he would waste a whole train coin just for ad space. Many were literally drooling over the mention of fresh tomatoes. As he suspected, some prepared survivors were ready to deal. Within a very short time, he closed 10 trades. Securing 2 whole kilograms of gunpowder, he immediately went to work crafting his first batch of level 3 bullets. They felt heavier and far more dangerous than the standard rounds he had started out with. To test them, he fired 1 shot from his black gloss pistol at a pile of scrap metal, where his old bullets would have simply pierced the target. This one blew the entire pile apart. He could only stare in shock. Talk about a massive jump in firepower. He quickly processed the rest of the gunpowder to make 999 bullets, keeping them in his special inventory so he could grab them even when far away from the train. Soon his private inbox began to light up. 3 of his regular contacts had messaged him. Lai Zhan was busy with his usual delusions of grandeur, suggesting they team up to rule as kings of the track. He completely ignored him. Zioin, the fishing rod vendor, wanted to buy a weapon with train coins, making him a valuable contact. Then there was Shangyuan Yingshuer. She asked about his train level, so he gave her a pretty vague answer, saying he had just upgraded. She didn't press him for details, but her curiosity quickly shifted to his newly acquired gunpowder. She wanted to buy those bullets. Being one of the few who could actually afford to buy, he offered her 40 bullets for just 1 train coin, a deal she reluctantly accepted. After some quick haggling, he did not stop there. He next offered her a level 2 exquisite sharpshooter rifle for just 2 train coins, throwing in 10 extra bullets to sweeten the deal. She gritted her teeth and agreed, likely feeling as though he knew exactly how many coins she had in her pocket. As a final request, he asked her to use her blueprint to craft him a wooden bed, providing the materials himself. That trade was an absolute win, walking away with 3 more train coins, plus a proper place to sleep. The rifle was totally useless to him anyway. With his judgment of gunfire module, his handgun was more than enough for long-range targets. Next, he turned to Jalen and sold him several sublimated level 2 rifles for 2 coins each, even trading some bullets for 5 freshwater fish. His wealth had now grown to 16 train coins. After acquiring the necessary electronic components, he built the observer device in the 3rd car. He also finally bought the energy power generator blueprint for 6 coins. Simple materials were totally manageable, and once built, the generator ran on diesel. But he was not about to hunt for oil. He patted the machine and initiated a sublimation. Boom! It transformed into an enchanted omnivorous power generator, capable of burning wood, metal, or coal to produce electricity. He tossed in a piece of wood, watched the battery level rise, and finally installed some electric bulbs. For the first time since arriving in this world, he lay in a real Bed under the glow of electric light, the thunderstorm had passed, quiet. He counted the hours in the darkness until he finally drifted. Off the next morning, dazzling sunlight woke him up. He stretched, enjoying a white forest fruit for breakfast, and headed to the front cabin the moment he stepped. Inside, a wall of stifling heat hit him like a physical blow. The morning broadcast confirmed his fears. They had entered a hot wind day. The weather was shifting again. No platform change was mentioned, but the temperature was already becoming dangerous. He retreated to the temperature-controlled car to wash his face, dreading the heat. It was a massive pain that the control system was only accessible in the sweltering front cabin, but he had no choice. He logged back into the chat room, finding it already bustling with the voices of survivors who had been forced awake long before him. Honestly, in this intense heat, he was the only lucky one who managed to sleep in. The air inside his carriage was stifling, almost like a physical weight pressing down on his chest. He wiped the stinging sweat from his forehead and gulped down an entire bottle of mineral water, trying to ignore the frantic messages scrolling across the chat interface. Other survivors were losing their minds, screaming about the 40-degree heat and how the train had transformed into a literal metal oven. They talked about their mental and physical stats dropping constantly. They were driven to the absolute brink of insanity by this brutal heat. He checked his own interface and noted that while his physical stats were indeed dipping to 98, his mental state remained a steady 110. It made him wonder if his constant consumption of white forest fruits had granted him a unique resilience others lacked. A sudden sharp gunshot shattered his train of thought. Turning toward the noise, he saw the warning system was already active. Outside, a pack of starved bone hyenas desperately chased the speeding train, their ribs pushing hard against their mangy fur. At his current level 3 speed, they weren't a real threat. But something felt wrong. The system hadn't broadcasted any warning about this encounter. This wasn't a timed survival event. It was a completely random, spontaneous hunt. This, he realized, was the new, brutal reality of the wilderness. Just then, a flicker on his private chat screen caught his eye. It was Zhao Lin, the automatic fishing rod maker, asking if he'd run into monsters as well. He confirmed it, watching the beasts finally fade into the distance behind him. She was terrified, explaining that a massive flock of birds nearly shattered her windows, and she only survived by pushing her train to 35 kilometers an hour. Desperate for upgrades but completely out of coins, she offered him fish instead. He stared at the message, a wave of cold pragmatism washing over him. He had plenty of food. He wasn't about to start running a charity. He rejected her flat out, but she begged, desperate for a lifeline. She revealed her unique talent, luck conservation, a cycle of alternating good and bad fortune. She'd struck gold at a fish pond station earlier, but now she was terrified her next stop would be a complete disaster, leaving her vulnerable before the next night's survival. Her talent was definitely unique, even if he personally preferred the absolute, reliable power of his own sublimation. Still, he smelled opportunity here, a perfect chance for a long-term investment. He asked what she needed: wood, metal, and 14 mechanical parts, she replied. He demanded the contents of her last treasure chest, plus 10 fish. And he warned her, do not even try to dump that useless rod blueprint. She agreed instantly, and in a flash of light, the trade was done. Among her items, he found a level 1 plant nutrient solution. Perfect. The boots and fishing line were trash, but this solution was pure gold. He immediately sublimated the liquid twice, transforming it into a blessed plant elixir. He rushed to the back of his temperature-controlled carriage, pouring the glowing elixir directly into the wooden soil box of his white forest tree. The results were spectacular. A blinding white light erupted, and the sapling shot toward the ceiling in seconds, its branches instantly heavy with fruit. When the glow faded, he had a level 4 blessed white forest tree. It produced 3 massive fruits every day, but that wasn't even the best part. These level 4 fruits could now be eaten instantly, no tedious 5-minute water soak required. He took a big, satisfying bite, savoring the incredible sweetness, knowing he now had 55 of these life-saving fruits safely tucked away in storage. As hours passed, he relaxed in his 22 degrees Celsius sanctuary, happily enjoying steak and beer, while the rest of the world literally roasted outside. His only complaint, the beer was warm. A fridge was definitely next on his list. 30 minutes before reaching the 5th stop, the crossroads of fate finally appeared. To his surprise, both options were level 4, the Abyssal Batcave, a combat stop, or Mystic Belltown, a mission stop. That combat label made him hesitate. At level 4 difficulty, his current gear might not be enough to carry him through. To avoid a direct confrontation, he decided to stick with his routine and chose the mission. Station, the train accelerated into the dark void as the sun vanished, replaced by a silent, snowy night. They pulled into what looked like an utterly ordinary train station. Following his routine, he activated Wally with a train coin and watched him wobble away. Just as he prepared to step off, the sound of approaching footsteps reached him. He drew his pistol, his judgment of gunfire module, already calculating the trajectory based on the sound. Then a girl's voice called out, clear and innocent. She called him Inspector and sounded relieved that he had finally arrived. He hesitated but slowly opened the door, trusting that his defensive items would react if she were a threat. Standing on the platform was a petite girl of about 11 or 12, bundled in a white winter coat. She peered into the train with azure eyes and waved enthusiastically, claiming that a sister Nun had promised a chief inspector would come to save them. He looked at her, searching for any hidden catch. He asked for her name, and she answered with a bright childlike smile that her name was Tina. It seemed his fifth mission had begun before he even stepped off the platform. Time to see where this leads. What exactly does this young girl expect an inspector to do for her town? Tina blinked at him, her eyes filled with a plea so tangible it felt incredibly heavy. She asked if he was truly the inspector everyone had been waiting for. He could not help but offer her a kind smile while nodding. He reasoned that since she claimed the person arriving by train would be the inspector, and he was the only one there, it had to be him. She let out a joyful cheer and urged him to follow her quickly, but he asked her to wait a moment. He reached into his supplies and handed her an ordinary white forest fruit. The little girl took it without a trace of fear, and as she bit into it, she marveled at the sweetness. He just smiled, checking his gear one last time and donning the sanctuary cross before finally stepping onto the platform. After sealing the door and setting his warning tower to maximum sensitivity, he told the girl to lead the way to these people she mentioned. They left the unnaturally sterile station and entered a town dusted with a light, silent snow. There were no streetlights. The only beacon was a single lantern hanging above a church that looked uncannily like an upright train cab. The silence was heavy, and he could feel unseen eyes tracking their movement from the shadows. Whispers skittered through the dark, sending a chill down his spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. He kept one hand on his black gloss pistol and the other near his cross, acutely aware that the station carried a danger rating far more severe than the others. Tina, however, skipped along, the only splash of color in a grayscale world, seemingly untouched by the oppressive atmosphere. When they reached the church, Tina beckoned him inside, announcing that everyone had been waiting forever. He hesitated at the base of the jade white steps before telling her to go in first. As she pushed the doors open, a flood of light revealed hundreds of townspeople seated in pews, their heads bowed. Deep prayer. At the front stood a golden-haired nun dressed in black. Clutching a dark book, Tina announced his arrival, and the church fell into a sudden vacuum-like silence. Then, as if they were puppets controlled by the same, in an instant, every head lifts in unison, and hundreds of eyes lock onto him. He does not flinch, already keeping the safety off on his pistol. The slightest wrong move means a bullet, but she just smiles warmly, telling the crowd not to frighten him before sending Tina to prepare something. As prayers resume, the mysterious nun approaches him holding a box from the pulpit. He levels his gun right at her head and orders her back, demanding to know what is actually happening. This place is wrong, totally wrong on every single level. Her calm smile makes it worse. She halts, but Nella places the box down. Inside sits a strange black and gold shard, a blasphemy card fragment. The nun offers a quick prayer, her unsettling smile never fading as she explains that only those who blaspheme against gods can step into this bizarre world. She calls him the inspector before correcting herself to call him a conductor or a simple blasphemer. She asks which train stop this town represents, even though his holy cross stays silent. He knows it is time to leave. Giving a dry laugh, he tells her only a fool wouldn't run, and bolts straight back toward the station. Instantly, the nun screams for the town to stop him. The praying villagers suddenly transform into monstrous sprinting beasts with impossible speed. He is in trouble. This stop is a total nightmare. He lands a perfect headshot on the lead monster, but her voice echoes through the streets, mocking his fight. She claims his bullets are useless against her creations, mocking that a rookie conductor stands no chance of winning. However, her smug triumph vanishes when she feels her spiritual connection to her. Puppets suddenly snap. His level 3 armor-piercing rounds are doing what basic bullets never could. With his special gun targeting module, his aim is completely effortless. He is picking them off one by one, slowly widening the gap. He might actually make it back, but then, a chilling sigh. The nun suddenly stands in his path, less than 100 meters from the train station. She teleported so fast, it feels like she was always standing there. She admits she is surprised a level 3 train conductor could defeat her puppets, just as his warning tower hums to life. Before the weapon can fire, dark chains lash out and tightly bind the barrels. Seeing his defense shut down so easily, he knows he is completely outmatched. Trying to play it cool, he suggests she just take what she wants without all this violence, but she assures him she is not there to cause harm. He sits on the ground helplessly, knowing there is no escaping a terrifying woman who can manipulate chains and space itself. She introduces herself as Sha and pulls him to his feet. Her slender, graceful figure stands in stark contrast with the monster power she just displayed. Once they are back inside the church, she shoves the dark blasphemy card fragment right into his hands. He tries to decline such a dangerous item, sensing the massive target on his back, but she laughs it off, asking how sweet, gentle nun could ever hurt anyone. His skepticism spikes. She casually crushes the head of her own puppet, a skull that had required his absolute best ammunition to pierce. He quickly promises her that he won't throw the valuable card away. Sha then asks what his special talent is, and though he keeps quiet, claiming she is not curious, she is a highly erratic woman, constantly shifting between holy grace and sudden frustration. She gets highly annoyed when he refuses to ask questions, suddenly teleporting right in front of him and crushing another puppet's skull just to make a point. He hurriedly rattled off a string of questions to satisfy her, but she just covered his mouth, telling him to pick one. She eventually sat cross-legged on a bench and revealed that she was a senior of sorts, arriving in this world 20 years ago. She explained that she had been sealed here by someone who erased the station from the records, making it impossible for high-level trains to find her. Only a low-level train like his could enter, though even it shouldn't have reached this platform. She deduced his unique talent was the only reason he found her, and she warned him never to reveal his abilities or the blasphemy card to anyone. She warned him that if others found out, they would hunt him down and he'd end up trapped like her, dead. He stared at the card in his hand desperately, wishing she would take it back. It felt like a complete death sentence, but looking into She's eyes, he knew he was stuck. He looked at her and asked directly, "She, were you among the first batch of survivors to arrive in this world?" Since it seemed she didn't actually intend to kill him, the paralyzing fear he felt earlier began to ebb away. He decided to be bold and clarify the things he needed to know. After all, a senior here for over 20 years had to possess knowledge far beyond his own. She shook her head, explaining that there were quite a few batches of survivors before her time, though she noted that they rarely encounter them. When he asked why, she snapped her fingers and several black chains materialized in the air, assembling themselves into a spectral train track. She reminded him that the world they were in is infinite and that all stations represent different worlds. In her era, there was a powerful man who wanted to measure the vastness of the wilderness. He united the strongest conductors of that age to gather resources and boosted his train speed to levels even she found hard to imagine. She clicked her tongue as if recalling a terrifying number. She mentioned that the man had a module, asking if he knew about them yet, and explained that her chains were a module as well. She described them as magic or cipher weapons, the best way for a conductor to enhance their power. However, she looked at him and noted that as a level 3 conductor, obtaining modules wouldn't be easy, as they usually only appear in level 5+ treasure chests or after specific upgrades. Then she gave him a scrutinizing gaze, asking if he had already obtained a module from his upgrade options, since he had shot so accurately. Busted. He could only chuckle sheepishly, knowing he indeed obtained a module, but it wasn't for marksmanship. It was the early departure privilege. Did that man make it? Did he actually map out the world? She remained silent for a moment before shaking her head. She told him the man died. He had traveled at that unimaginable speed for a full year. without ever encountering another train in the wilderness. One day, his friends. Avatar simply grayed out, talk about a silent, chilling end in the void. But his death wasn't worthless, she added, because he traveled for a year. Without finding others, they concluded that the wilderness they travel through consists of distinct worlds, unless the population in a sector reaches a certain threshold they won't encounter each other. Suddenly, she produced a lollipop. She popped it into her mouth, casually asking him if he wanted one, when he thanked her but said he was not hungry. She grinned mischievously, telling him he was welcome because she had no plans of giving it to him anyway. It was her last one. She took off her nun hat and stood up, clearly finished with that topic. She offered to answer one last question before he had to find out the rest himself, warning him that his level was too low and knowing too much would only lead to overthinking. Then, completely contradicting herself, she produced another lollipop. Without waiting for him to speak, she unwrapped it and stuffed it directly into his mouth. It was sweet with a slightly bitter aftertaste, and the cooling sensation made him feel unexpectedly relaxed, wiping away the exhaustion from his earlier escape. When he pointed out that she had lied about having only one left, she just remarked that the more beautiful a woman is, the better she lies. Crunching the candy, he asked his final question. Did she know about the Run Company? He described what he had seen in Doomsday Town and Rainville Villa. She looked confused, admitting she did not know the company. However, she noted that if he had seen them across multiple stations, they were likely just one of many forces established by former conductors who grew tired of risking their lives and chose to settle down and influence certain stations. She told him the time was almost up and offered to show him her train. She clapped her hands and Tina came running from behind the church. The girl happily took his hand and swung it playfully, thanking him for helping them. She casually mentioned that Tina was her puppet, her finest creation. He rubbed his eyes, staring at the girl. She was completely indistinguishable from a real person. He even poked her cheek, wondering if she had once been human. Dark thought crossed his mind about Shia being some sealed demonist, and he realized he had better stay on her good side so he would not end up as a puppet himself. Suddenly, the church began to tremble. Shia led Tina to the prayer platform and commanded the system to prepare for departure. He watched in a daze as light screens flashed everywhere. The church itself was the locomotive of her train. She tossed him a black box, calling it a reward for helping her open this world and promising it would suit his current level. The church finished its transformation into a massive locomotive and black tracks appeared beneath its wheels. In an instant, they were at the station outside town. Talk about insane speed compared to her. His train moved like a snail. She revealed she was a level 57 conductor, rank considered formidable even in her era. She explained that while conductor levels go high, everything else, platforms, items, treasure chests, maxes out at level 12. As she finished configuring the controls, she poked his cheek and gave him a final warning. Never let the blasphemy card leave his possession. He sensed no malice in her voice, only a strange kind of teasing. He promised he would not lose the one she gave him, and she urged him to synthesize his own soon for the tremendous benefits it would bring. She told him it was time for her to go. She could have taken his train with her, she said, but staying aboard forever would be dull. She invited him to enjoy the land until the docking countdown ended and told him he could recycle the houses in town as he pleased. Her final request was for him to burn the place down after she left, as she never intended to return to a prison that held her for 15 years. Tina took his hand and told him it was time to disembark, looking incredibly cute, that he couldn't resist patting her head, remembering her love for white forest fruit. He pulled out 10 blessed fruits for her. She was thrilled, and the scent caught Shea's attention. She muttered softly, noticing his rare blessing. Aura, how could a level 3 train have such rare carriages? She seemed captivated by his rare talent. Carrying his mysterious gift box out onto the windy platform, he saw the full majesty of her level 57 train, the Night Angel. It was a black and white masterpiece of 18 carriages, each exuding luxury that made his own 2-car train look like a total wreck. He felt a surge of envy, though he tried to psych himself up, promising to surpass her one day. He quickly spotted a friend request from her on his digital display, wanting to decline, but a forced message from her, paired with a playful emoji, made it clear that refusing was not an option. Forcing himself to survive, he accepted but sneakily edited her contact name to Golden Retriever. She caught him immediately, calling him a good boy while warning him that she could track him anywhere in the world. He quickly added the prefix Evil Woman, Golden Retriever, the Night Angels. Engines roared, shaking the town. Fireworks exploded in the sky as Shea bit into a lollipop, announced her departure to the world, and her massive train vanished into the void, leaving Mystic Belltown in silence. He looked at the box sheet given him. It was a level 9 safety box, a 2x2 cube of absolute security that was impervious to any damage. Her extreme generosity stunned him. Even empty, this heavy security container was worth more than words. He quickly changed her contact name to Beautiful, Kind-Hearted Lady, pressing his right thumb firmly against the center of the box to bind it. Suddenly, a bright binding notification flashed before his eyes, confirming the binding process was complete. He eagerly opened the safety box and found his haul categorized into neat slots: 1 flame stone, 10 kilograms of gold, another 10 kilograms of rare mithril, and finally 3 colorful lollipops. It seemed the box operated on quality over quantity, keeping all items organized. I typed, looking at these legendary materials. A wave of deep relief washed over him. They were what he needed to upgrade his train to level 4 without his sublimation talent. Finding a flame stone this early would have been a completely and utterly impossible feat. Shea obviously had absolutely no inkling of his true upgrading abilities, so her gift was a perfectly calculated strategic boost, but the colorful candy caught his eye. Tension. Upon closer inspection, the system identified them as Shea's custom healing lollipops, an incredible level 8 masterpiece crafted by the Dark Nun herself. Consuming one forms a protective shield against external damage while mending wounds and restoring stamina. The attached note was clear: as long as he wasn't dead, these legendary candies would absolutely guarantee he stayed that way. Suddenly, chime echoed as a message from Shea arrived. She asked if he liked her little surprise, reminding him that the upcoming jump from level 3 to level 4 is a really major threshold. She explained that for most newcomers, flame stones are extremely rare until reaching the 10th station, meaning she was saving him weeks of struggle. She warned him against snacking on them casually, and she urged Ikian to stay alive long enough to complete the blasphemy card. Reading her words, he felt a complicated surge of gratitude, though he did not strictly need the head start. He still appreciated it. A quiet thank you echoed in the cabin. If he ever found another rare fragment of that legendary card, he would stop at nothing. What insane power would it unleash if it was ever made whole? Meanwhile, far away in the infinite wilderness, the Night Angel thundered forward. Shah stood proud on her prayer platform, munching on fruit while gazing at a horizon that never seemed to change. A message arrived from a mysterious contact expressing surprise at her return after 15 years. Shah simply replied that fate had chosen a new path. Now she was focused on retribution. When asked about the rune company, Shah expressed utter disdain, only to hear that their heavenly inspectors vanished. Back in Mystic Belltown, the clock was ticking. He spent the remaining 20 minutes dismantling the houses Shah had left behind. The grueling manual labor paid off, and he salvaged a decent amount of wood, metal, and mechanical parts, though only about a tenth of the original materials was recoverable. Shah had designed her safety box to store entire carriages, a massive relief, but time was running against him. With only 10 minutes left on the countdown, he had to abandon the rest. His final haul: 645 kilograms of wood, 770 of metal, over 500 mechanical parts, plus precious gold and mithril. It was enough for a standard upgrade, but he had a much bigger gamble in mind. As Wally wobbled back carrying a mysterious metal cube, curiosity finally won out. The system appraised it as a level 4 treasure chest. He ran his fingers over the cold metal, wondering if Shah left it or if it was just part of the town's hidden loot. He considered waiting until he could sublimate it to level 5, but a strange resistance held him back. His stamina and mental energy were high, yet everything felt fundamentally blocked. He realized that past level 4, everything resisted his talent. No way he would accept a plateau. If the talent itself was the limit, he would just have to change the talent. He popped one of his healing lollipops, feeling his stamina instantly surge back to full in an instant. Placing his hand on the chest, instead of focusing on the box, he turned his power inward. He would sublimate his own sublimation talent. The world turned Red, blinding warning screens flashed as a massive energy surge shrouded the train. Conductors across the entire sector felt a momentary tremor of primal fear. Amidst the chaos of the red light, his consciousness faded. Into black, he drifted in a void, vaguely aware of distorted system messages. There was an error in the crossroads of fate. Something was trying to correct a selection, then failing. A countdown started 5 seconds for 3 by the time the timeout hit. Destination chosen, Hope Valley. Level 4 Slaughter Station. The train accelerated through the void. More errors appeared as a mysterious force tried to interfere with his departure, attempting to set the countdown to infinity to trap him forever. However, the train system fought back, eliminating the interference and resetting the clock. The new countdown ticks down to 10 hours, and the station is marked as extremely dangerous. Inside the dead silence of the train, his consciousness finally begins to return. The train had already been sitting still for 10 minutes when the sudden sunlight, streaming right through the window, hits his face, waking him from a heavy slumber. That blinding glare forces him to blink, looking around in a daze as he peers outside. Endless stretches of forest fill his vision. It is completely clear that this is no longer the wilderness, but a platform station. As his mind becomes fully alert, memories of everything before he blacked out hit him like a massive tidal wave. He glances down and finds a heavy ironclad chest sitting quietly right at his feet. A level 5 chest, meaning it worked. He actually survived that incredibly risky round of self-sublimation. He quickly opens his personal interface to check the talent section, and there it is. The sublimation description has changed to include those crucial words: ignores resistance. That alone is enough to prove he succeeded. A confident smile spreads across his face as he looks up toward the Sentinel Tower device humming at the top of the train. That frustrating sensation of being unable to sublimate items past level 4 is completely gone, and he realizes the shackles holding his talent back are finally shattered. Despite his excitement, he cautiously starts inspecting his surroundings. He vaguely remembers hearing strange noises while he was out cold. Realizing this randomly selected area is a slaughter platform, the absolute last place he wanted to enter. He has no clue what the actual difference between slaughter and hunting even is, since he has never set foot on a hunting platform. But that mystery is instantly eclipsed by the train system records. As he reads through the logs, his good mood completely vanishes, replaced by a heavy weight in his chest. Wait, there was interference. Someone maliciously tampered with his docking platform and duration. Although the train system managed to erase the meddling, the remaining countdown is staggering. He rubs his eyes to ensure he did not misread the display, but it is entirely real. 10 hours. He is trapped in an extremely dangerous platform for 10 hours, even though his train usually stops for only 5. There is absolutely no doubt an unknown entity tried to trap him here forever. While the train system proved itself fair and trustworthy by clearing that interference, he is still in a massive bind. His only saving grace is the VIP early departure privilege module. Yet, even with that, he is facing 7 long hours in this nightmare. He takes a deep breath to calm his nerves. Since he is trapped here, his best move is opening the level 5 chest, hoping the loot will be powerful enough to dominate a level 4 platform. As the lid pops and the rewards materialize, 10 train coins, 2 modules, and 2 level 5 items. Those modules are system bind, and in station launch, he uses them immediately, noting they are not physical cards, so they cannot be sublimated. That system bind upgrade is incredibly useful, as it permanently transfers the control base station functions directly to him. No longer will he be inconvenienced by running back to the locomotive to identify items or check his stats. The in-station launch module is just as vital, allowing him to move the train to specific target locations within a station for only 1 train coin per hour. Next, he turns his full attention to first the Golden Strike card, a level 5 item that can massively boost the power of his next attack by 5 times, but he decides to push things further. He upon his talent, feeling the heavy drain on his stamina and spirit, though the cost of self-sublimation is notably lower than before. The card transforms into a level 6 Golden Critical card. Now, it can increase his attack power by 50 times. Unleashing this kind of insane power is going to be so satisfying, so he slips the card into his pocket, relieved he will not be left helpless against truly formidable monsters. Next, he picks up a highly accurate pocket While a simple watch seems like an odd reward for a level 5 item, this piece is absolutely beautiful. It is crafted from pure white materials with ornate golden patterns and gemstone hands, giving him the most precise timekeeping in any spacetime. This makes it a very handy tool. Suddenly, a loud bang shatters. Quiet, he looks toward the sound and sees crimson blood pooling in a clearing. Among the trees, the corpse of a dog-like beast clutching a dagger. Its mouth bobs to the surface of the blood. The sentinel towers reveal. Ability caught the stealthy intruder, but the death of this single creature is only the beginning. The tower flares blood red as targeting rings lock onto the ground. Monsters begin charging out of the dense forest toward the train in a relentless wave. The gunfire becomes a deafening roar as the sentinel tower goes to full power, precisely locking onto and killing every beast entering the 100-meter forbidden zone. He breathes a bit easier seeing the defense hold, but his heart grows heavier with every shot. If he did not have the sentinel tower and its reveal ability, he likely would have been torn apart by monsters sneaking onto the train by now. He finds himself wondering about the true nature of this brutal platform. In this world, the line between hunting and slaughter is incredibly thin. While hunting means killing your enemy, slaughter can easily mean being the one waiting in despair to be butchered. This deadly ambush is clearly designed by some unknown interference to ensure he dies in this forest. He sits in the quiet of his carriage, staring at the screens with cold, unwavering resolve, because whoever wants him dead is in for a rude awakening. He has already decided that no matter how dangerous this place claims to be, it is still just a level 4 platform, and he is far from helpless. As the initial wave of slaughter begins to taper off, and the beast's desperate siege finally stops, he climbs onto the roof of the train. He reaches out to touch the warning device, still scalding hot from firing, deciding a level 5 defense should be more than enough to handle this level 4 station. He initiates sublimation, watching his spirit drop from 90 to 40, but the results are instantaneous and highly successful. The device transforms into a sentinel guard, and the massive jump in power is undeniable. It can now be armed with 9 different weapons and is capable of appearing anywhere on the train, extending its surveillance range to a full 150 meters. It automatically locks onto any hostile targets, dispelling their illusions or stealth, and even possesses the ability to briefly detach and pursue threats. Best of all, he can activate an overlimit mode for a single train coin to double its attack speed if things grow truly dire. However, he is not finished with these upgrades yet. Level 4 installations were not limited to the roof, so he moved down to the third carriage where the surveillance device sat completely idle. It had seen little use while the sentinel handled everything outside. Still, he knew he had to prepare. Worst, the sentinel's eyes never watched the interior of the train. If a monster bypassed external sensors, this device was his final line of defense. He poured 40 stamina and 10 spirit into the sublimation. It was now an illusion monitor, capable of monitoring every corner, triggering alarms and releasing disorienting illusions to trap any intruder. 3 straight sublimations left him utterly exhausted. Still, he kept pushing. He returned to the front carriage to gather his items. He grabbed the mythal cross and pure earthbound stone. While mechanical sensors handled physical threats, these two would protect him. The pure earthbound stone still held untapped potential. But with his energy depleted, he had to wait patiently. To recover, he donned his bulletproof armor and gripped his black lost pistol, preparing as thoroughly as possible. He was leaving alive no matter the cost, but first one more task. He quickly activated Wally since he was trapped anyway. Why wait? It made sense to gather resources. Soon, his preparations were completely finished. Suddenly, he realized he was absolutely starving. Time to eat. He set up a grill right outside the train, preparing a hot lunch. Amidst the sound of distant gunfire, after a whole day spent unconscious, he truly deserved a proper feast. While the food sizzled, he checked his system logs. He was surprised to find several new updates. The 5th station was finally complete. Major restrictions were lifted. Private trading was now allowed, and he could list items on the platform directly from within the station, up to 5 items at once. Incredible. He felt a brief pang of regret for missing the trading window. While he was out cold, suddenly his private chat interface began flickering. Messages from his few contacts appeared. Shangyun Yingyue reached out first, asking about the tremors, but her abrupt apology afterward left him quite confused. Xiaolin also messaged him, thanking him for the upgrade help. She shared a photo of a snack shop at her sixth station. She succeeded. He felt a sudden flash of envy at her massive haul of food and alcohol, yet he remained highly skeptical of her luck talent. Good luck was always shadowed by inevitable misfortune. She was riding high for now, but she might easily end up in a place like this next. Finally, he saw a message from Lai Zio, still peddling his alliance. The guy arrogantly claimed he would reach a level 3 train first. He offered future help in exchange for weapons. They were hollow words. He acted like a shady boss, remembering the fishing rod incident. He realized the man was a waste of time and deleted him. He scrolled through his remaining contacts. Several names had turned gray, signifying destroyed trains and lost lives, a grim reminder of survival. He ignored Shah's warnings, clearing his remaining chats to post a bulk gunpowder buy request publicly, noting only 2,453. Survivors remained out of 10,000. The responses came in slowly, likely because many were still exploring without modules that let them access the system away from their trains. This suited him just fine, meaning his message would stay visible. An hour had passed since docking, thanks to the Sentinel's incredible efficiency. The 150-meter radius became a localized sanctuary. He sat back, enjoying grilled meat, a white forest fruit, and an iced beer he had traded from Xiaolin. For a moment, it felt like a relaxing vacation, and he chose to ignore the metallic smell of blood hanging in the air. With a full stomach, his mind began to clear, realizing this brutal platform did not just demand a passive defense. From him, he did not have to sit idle. Why would he? The carcasses left behind by his powerful sentinel guards were actually valuable resources. If he could collect and recycle them at the processing station, they would definitely bring him massive gains. He wasted no time taking action. He bought a massive bamboo basket on the trading market, running some thick ropes threw it to sling over his back, then tied a sharp dagger to the end of a wooden stick for a makeshift sickle. During the brief lulls after the sentinel finished its bloody work, he hurried out into the clearing to drag the carcasses back, one by one, the remains of level 2 blackhorn hunting dogs, level 3 swift fear snakes, and level 3 assassin lizards were fed into the processing station. The harvest was massive. He got 10 portions of dog meat, 5 of snake, and 10 of lizard. Beyond the food, he recovered special materials like an assassin lizard skin, which promised to slightly hide his presence when carried, and a corrosive hunting dog dagger. He quickened his pace inside the 150-meter safety zone, confident that as long as he stayed within the Sentinel's lock-on range, these monsters could not touch him. So far, this platform had provided more of a bounty than a burden, as his level 5 Sentinel guards proved overwhelmingly dominant against any creature level 4 or lower, even when an occasional beast tide attempted to swarm the perimeter. A quick activation of the overlimit mode was enough to repel them effortlessly. Between the automated defenses and his own prowess as a marksman, aided by the judgment of gunfire module and armor-piercing rounds, the forest had essentially become his personal slaughterhouse. He knew his gear was powerful enough to pierce even Shah's puppets, so these flesh and blood beasts stood no chance. But after 5 hours of constant fighting, the danger finally revealed itself in his low ammo count. He had started with nearly 1,000 rounds, but despite perfect accuracy, fewer than 400 remained. As the sky began to darken, the monsters seemed to grow more wary. The sight of their fallen kin and the heavy smell of blood acted as a warning, keeping them wandering just outside the death zone, as if waiting for something to change. He checked his gemstone inlaid pocket watch. The time was 1812. With night approaching, he had no intention of pushing his luck. He headed deep into the woods, lit a campfire, and prepared a fresh piece of snake meat to skewer over the flames. His efforts had netted him 810 kilograms of various meats, now safely stored in his train units, where the storage carriages' unique properties would keep them fresh. As the meat slowly roasted, he pulled up the system light screen to check the chat. Right away, he saw the survivor count had plummeted to 2,404. The sixth station had clearly claimed many lives. While he was busy, the chat was a frantic mix of panic and desperation. With people realizing the next night's survival event was coming, many were terrified, still stuck with level 1 trains and lacking the resources to Upgrade to 40 kilometers per hour to outrun the darkness. Talk about absolute nightmare fuel. He watched as they begged for metal and parts, willing to trade every scrap of food. And water just to survive. Others pointed toward Li Xiao Shang's alliance, but reports were pretty grim. The man was charging sky-high prices, demanding a train coin for a mere 15 kilograms of metal. His lackeys dominated the chat, defending Li Xiao Shang's monopoly, claiming only he was brave enough to sell materials even as they hiked the price to 10 kilograms per coin. Looking at the 2,000 remaining conductors, he realized about a tenth of them were still trapped behind that level 1 threshold, whether through poor choices or sheer misfortune. They were now desperate enough to spend anything to bridge the gap. He still had 16 train coins, but knew the next upgrades would be expensive. If there was an opportunity to earn more, he was not going to pass it up. He composed a message and sent it into the fray, offering 30 kilograms of metal or wood or 20 mechanical parts for a single train coin. His prices were far more reasonable than Li Xiao Shang's, and he made it clear that quantities were limited and terms were strictly non-negotiable. The reaction was instantaneous. While some called him a bloodsucker, the majority of the chat recognized the value. Desperate conductors immediately flooded his inbox, while Li Xiao Shang's supporters tried to trash his reputation, only to get shut down by those grateful for a fair alternative. He ignored the petty squabbles entirely. His listings on the trading interface sold out in a heartbeat, and in an instant, his wealth grew by another 10 train coins. The chat room remained a loud mess, packed with players begging for materials. While a relentless flood of private messages overwhelmed his inbox, he decided to list another batch of resources, but the return was meager. Only 3 train coins. It wasn't from lack of demand. Here's the crazy part. Almost no one actually had coins anymore. Treasure chests were becoming a rare luxury in this world. Reflecting on his own journey, he realized that without Wally's specialized assistance, the only chest he likely would have found was that initial one from the armory. No chests meant no coins, and no coins meant a lack of resources for upgrades essential to surviving the next night. It was a cycle of certain death for many, but he reminded himself that it had nothing to do with him. He could not save everyone. Listing materials was a business move to harvest what few coins remained. In his eyes, if a conductor could not manage their first upgrade after 6 stations, they simply were not cut out for this environment. He scanned the desperate chat. Sifting through endless trade requests, he noticed a recurring pattern. Almost none offered anything of value to prove they were worth his time. Then, a message from someone named Peng when Xuan caught his eye, claiming that he had only one last blueprint left, making him desperate for 30 kilograms of metal to save his train. Blueprint was always worth inspecting, yet it was strange that even a low-tier item had not brought him resources, so he asked what it was, and the man quickly responded with frantic gratitude, sending over the details for a level 1 wooden bow. He immediately regretted his curiosity. It was no wonder the man could not sell it. In an age of guns and crossbows, how many people actually knew how to handle a bow? It required real skill and strength, completely unlike the simple point and shoot mechanics of a firearm, and this did not even include arrows. Still, a blueprint was a blueprint. While it was useless to the masses, it held massive potential for him. He accepted. Peng Wen Xuan wept with joy, calling him a good person and promising repayment. He merely scratched his head. These days, that felt like an insult, not a compliment. He did not dwell on the man's promise of future repayment, strongly suspecting this was going to be their very last interaction. If he was only reaching level 2 now, the rising difficulty would likely swallow him whole. Once the transaction was complete, he turned to his real goal. Sublimation. A trash-tier blueprint could easily become something far more formidable in his hands. He poured a small amount of spirit into it, watching the level 1 bow evolve into a level 2 black hardwood bow. He checked the requirements: 10 kilograms of wood plus fiber, and instantly crafted it. Then he pushed it further with another 10 points of spirit. The weapon transformed into a level 3 floral enchanted wooden bow, truly a beautiful, peculiar weapon, adorned with floral patterns and capable of using spirit to craft its own energy arrows with a minor auto-aim feature. Drawing the string back, he watched a pale pink arrow materialize in fire, piercing right through a distant monster with impressive power. It easily rivaled his armor-piercing rounds, but he still Preferred his guns. Regardless, this enchanted bow would fetch a handsome price if he chose to sell it. He swiped past all the unfamiliar private messages on his screen, unconcerned with the desperate pleas of strangers. He knew that charging a coin for 30 kilograms of scrap already proved he was no saint. However, he left his friend's messages untouched, noticing one from Shangyu and Yinggu. She was looking for bullets and offered gunpowder in exchange. She was a pleasant, well-supplied partner, making the timing perfect. He offered her 10 level 3 bullets for every 500 grams of gunpowder, covering the metal cost. Himself, she agreed instantly, asking for 100 rounds. He was genuinely surprised she had managed to stockpile so much gunpowder. That meant she was providing enough raw material for him to craft 1,000 bullets. Trading with her was always a treat. With the deal closed, he got to work at the processing station. Any concerns he had about his own ammunition levels for the station vanished as he loaded fresh rounds into his sentry guns, ensuring maximum security. Watching the snake meat sizzle over the grill, oil dripping and salt sparkling, he tapped out a message to her, asking about the tremor. She explained he had been completely unconscious all of yesterday. He got badly hurt at a station. She apologized, feeling guilty. She thought he ignored her, but then she described the terrifying tremor. It hit around 5:50 p.m., a pure, primal, terrifying fury. Exactly when he left Mystic Belltown, he noted this timing immediately. After thanking her, he asked if she found any good loot. A level 2 Froststone screenshot popped up, showing its freezing power. The price was set at 60 bullets or 2 train coins. He couldn't help but dream of a cold drink in this heat. A total jackpot. Without a proper water tank, his supplies would rot. The blistering wasteland heat would quickly spoil any water he stored. But keeping the temperature right at freezing would stop that decay. Plus, it was not just about survival, it was about pure comfort. Honestly, who could say no to an ice-cold beer during a heat wave? The thought alone was mouthwatering. It made him realize something crucial. He had almost overlooked a major asset, so he headed back inside. Rummaging through his blueprints, he finally located the target items. This schematic came from his very first train upgrade option. Building it once was enough to know its absolute value out here. Shangyun Yingyue came to mind, a woman with elemental water talents. She would likely jump at the chance to own this. Sending over the tank description, he waited for her reply. She expressed immediate interest, asking about the train coin cost. His price was 2. Naturally, she hesitated at the demand. Protesting that she was short on cash, she asked for credit. 2 coins seemed steep to her. He immediately rejected that, offering a trade instead, since getting credit was completely out of the question. Shangyu and Yingyue knew that getting credit was a pure fantasy. Giving in to his terms, she offered an ice condensation pearl instead. He was stunned. She agreed instantly without even haggling. Patting the basic water tank frame, he quietly suppressed a smirk. In reality, this basic tank was mostly just a lump of iron. A blueprint that cost him 1 coin was now yielding 3. Talk about an absolute steal. The profit margin was insane. Since she asked if he was uninterested, he quickly agreed. Telling her to wait, he immediately prepared to craft. The blueprints and materials went straight to the processing table. A brand new tank began to materialize before his eyes. Her trade request popped up exactly when the craft finished. Exchange done, he finally held the new ice condensation pearl. This was fantastic. He planned to buy beer from Ziolan, though he wondered if she would even survive the trip. First things first, it was time to start the sublimation. His spirit level dropped from 104 to 84. This level 3 pearl could freeze water and shape ice freely. Hoping he could finally wield some real power, clearing his throat, he struck what he thought was a suitably impressive pose and pointed the ice vein pearl at the water tank, commanding an ice sword to appear. The fresh water inside slowly hummed and condensed into a long sword of pure ice. He reached out to grab the hilt, but the instant his hand brushed it, the blade shattered into 1,000 useless broken shards, total garbage. He expected epic magic but got this. No big deal. He didn't feel like it was a complete and total loss. He had practically gotten the pearl for absolutely free, so there was really no harm done. He checked the chat interface again, and his gaze fell upon the floral enchanted wooden bow resting beside him. He hesitated for a second before sending a Screenshot of the weapon to Shangyuan Yingshuer, offering it for 4 train coins or something of equal value. She seemed to freeze at the offer, replying that she was broke and that the price was too high. He countered confidently, telling her it wasn't expensive at all for a level 3 weapon that completely outclassed any monster they had encountered so far. He reminded her again that she could trade items of equal value as she lacked coins. She sounded resentful, asking why he hadn't mentioned the bow earlier, if he had offered it from the start. She wouldn't have wasted her resources on bullets. He shamelessly maintained the deception, telling her he had only just remembered it and pointing out that she was the one who had asked for bullets in the first place. He told her that if she couldn't trade, he would just find another buyer. He was still probing her limits. Compared to Xiaolin, Shangyuan Yingshuer seemed far luckier. She was, after all, the first conductor besides himself to upgrade her train. She likely had more hidden away. He asked her if she had found anything else in that treasure chest from the last station besides the pearl, adding a casual note that he wasn't hinting she should trade them. His words must have stung because he honestly, you can practically feel her urge to block him right through the screen. She probably wondered if he really thought she was that desperate. It was just a level 3 weapon after all. It wasn't as if she absolutely needed it. Then a screenshot appeared. Level 2 consumes 2 spirit points to predict the next day's weather at noon. She made it clear that if he wouldn't sell for that, she was done. She had truly offered everything she could. It wasn't out of desperation, but a level 3 weapon was an incredible temptation for someone still traveling with a level 2 train. She had decided that if he refused this time, she wouldn't offer another scrap. He replied immediately, telling her that since they had traded so much already, he would do her a favor and accept the deal. Despite his composed reply, he was beaming with joy. He had struck gold again. He had taken a blueprint obtained for a mere 30 kilograms of scrap and flipped it for what amounted to 3 train coins. He felt like a total business genius. The trade went through smoothly. The fresh water filled his tank, and a white sunny doll appeared in his hand. It was actually quite cute. He didn't wait long before initiating another sublimation. His spirit fell from 84 to 69. Level 3 consumes 1 spirit point to predict today's and tomorrow's weather at any time. The upgrade was perfect. He could now check the weather whenever he wanted, rather than waiting. The cost was halved while its appearance remained identical, so he hung it up in his climate-controlled resting compartment. This run of highly profitable trades had brought him incredible gains. It was not a total transformation, but a massive accumulation of wealth. He now had 30 train coins in his possession. He briefly considered upgrading the train again, but decided it was much smarter to wait until leaving the station. It simply was not safe here. Having decided, he stepped out of the compartment, only to be struck by a sudden pungent odor. He sniffed the air, his face twisting into pure horror. His meat was ruined. The snake meat he had been roasting was completely charred and inedible. He sighed, realizing he would have to start over. Preparing to relight the grill, he realized that Wally still had not returned after all this. Times he could not help but wonder if the little guy had died out there. The waves of fury radiating from Lai Xiao Shan were practically palpable as the chat room remained in an uproar. He was clearly beyond incensed, likely wearing an expression of pure disgust after realizing he had actually been deleted from the friends list. To make matters worse, our hero was selling materials at prices that undercut his own, which the rival saw as a deliberate attempt to oppose his authority. He likely felt like he had swallowed a fly, seeing that glaring notification and muttering threats about making him regret those choices while sitting surrounded by his hoard of basic wood and metal. He let out a triumphant laugh, convinced he was the chosen one because he could upgrade every 3 stations, immediately initiating his transition to level 3. However, his arrogance hit a wall the moment he looked at the new requirements. Seriously, imagine the look on his face when he did not recognize Flamestone's gold and Meathil. His talent, as powerful as it seemed, evidently had its limits. It only allowed him to pinpoint basic resources like metal and wood, but could not touch the exotic materials required for higher tiers. He was learning the hard way that his path would not be as smooth as he had imagined. While he fumed, our hero finally got his chance to eat. During the 6-hour stopover, he spent his time blowing ashes off a piece of snake meat, the rich aroma making his mouth water despite only having basic salt for seasoning. the monsters outside had been strangely passive during this entire period. Even when he proactively took shots at them with his rifle, they would only retreat to their 150 meters perimeter. It felt as though they were practicing a patient siege, simply waiting for him to make a mistake. As he chewed on the meat, rubbing his chin in contemplation, a rustling sound came from the nearby brush. He did not reach for his gun because the sentinel guard remained silent, recognizing the source. While ally approached from the distance, wobbling on his tracks, and the young man greeted him, admitting he had almost thought the little guy had gotten killed out there. The robot could not speak, but he presented a tree stump that the system appraised as a level 4 treasure chest. His mood shifted instantly as he patted the metal head and praised his consistent performance. He did not open the chest right away, instead discarding his meal and boarding the train while jokingly advising him not to lead any monsters back next time. Almost on cue, an earth-shaking howl erupts from the thick woods, a massive white wolf the size of a grown man. The moment it crosses the sentry's perimeter, a deadly storm of bullets begins. The automated sentinel detects that this is no ordinary beast. The system identifies the target as a level 4 lightning wolf. It yelps in pain as blue electricity crackles across its fur. Its speed explodes after activating its lightning armor skill. It closes within 50 meters in a heartbeat. He doesn't hesitate to trigger his overdrive mode, dissolving a rare train coin to double the firing speed. The rifles transform into a deadly minigun, completely shredding the beast. A relentless hail of lead neutralizes the threat in just 3 seconds. But the sentry doesn't stop. Other monsters waiting in the dark begin to follow the alpha's lead, charging ahead. They waited for the alpha to breach. Now 30 seconds of overdrive turns hundreds of charging creatures into absolute minced meat. He surveys the bloodbath, feeling a bit of regret over the ruined wolf fur. He drags the heavy carcass back to his train for processing. The harvest yields rare lightning wolf fur, 10 bones, and a sharp fang. It is a massive haul, even though the meat is completely ruined. He realizes right then that the white wolf was a formidable gatekeeper. The beast endured 100 meters of constant gunfire before he activated overdrive. Any ordinary level 3 conductor would have been easily torn apart. Any normal survivor would be dead, but he is simply far stronger than them. He stares out the window, sending a silent message to his enemies. He is sorry to disappoint whoever tried to set this trap. Suddenly, the countdown hits the 3-hour mark, and his early departure option lights up. This allows him to finally relax, but he doesn't leave just yet. With the alpha dead, the remaining monsters are too terrified to approach. He spots a perfect opportunity to gather more resources. The dense forest is a literal goldmine for timber, and he won't waste time. Grabbing his heavy axe, he pulls out the special safety case Shaw provided. Because of its unique rules, he can store entire trees inside it. He spends the next 2 hours chopping wood, successfully hauling back 500 kilograms of wood. Only 30 minutes remain. The early departure prompt flashes on his screen, and he takes one last look at the quiet forest before pressing it, instantly spatial. Distortions ripple as tracks extend, and the train accelerates forward. They rocket through the darkness until beautiful moonlight streams through the glass. This marks their arrival at 10:30 p.m. The announcement rings out. All conductors have left the 6th platform as a loud broadcast echoes. This sudden transmission forces the remaining 2,000 conductors to pause. They stop their frantic work, turning toward the speaker in absolute shock. The voice is cold, declaring a brutal truth to the survivors. Any conductor with a train below level 2 will perish tonight. Those who survive will proceed to a trading platform at Station 7. There they will be allowed to purchase a single matching item. Upgrading the train was possible as long as they had coins to afford it. More importantly, the broadcast warned that Sector E3 was dropping fast. Merger incoming, falling below 2,000 players triggered a sector merger. A warning followed. Night survival would begin at midnight sharp. It would last 2 hours and 30 minutes, plus a special warning. Any damage taken would drastically decrease the train's overall speed. Urgent repairs were needed. The heavy announcement weighed on every conductor. He watched as the global chat room overflowed with panicked messages. Everyone begged for resources, but at this critical juncture, nobody was helping. No one offered aid, while other survivors panicked about upgrading their trains. Others feared a level 2 upgrade wouldn't save them. He was unbothered. These worries meant nothing to him. Returning to the endless wasteland, a screen appeared. It congratulated him for escaping the deadly level 4 slaughter platform. He had succeeded despite all the interference. Then, the train system actually offered an apology for the sabotage he had to endure. As compensation, he got a free processing module. He swiped the screen to accept it, quietly grumbling that this would have been useful way earlier. If he could have summoned the processing station anywhere during his run, he wouldn't have exhausted himself hauling heavy timber and monster corpses. Shaking off the brief complaint, his focus quickly shifted to something else. Chest secured, Wally had recovered a valuable level 4 treasure chest. To him, the upcoming night's survival was just an afterthought. He had far more important matters to handle. Instantly, he initiated a sublimation. As his stamina dropped to 50 and his spirit to 95, the box transformed. It became a level 5 chest. 50 points felt like a total steal. He eagerly popped open the lid. The rewards inside were incredible. Inside were 10 train coins, a level 4 lightning assault module, a level 5 weapon conversion card, and lightning wolf leather boot blueprints. The lightning assault module caught his eye because of its unique effect. It let him spend stamina to wrap his body in pure lightning. This granted a burst of super speed to easily dodge or escape. Boot blueprints also held massive potential, remembering that fierce white wolf. A beast, its ferocity was fresh in his mind, but something else captured him. It was the weapon conversion card, able to transform any gear. He pulled out his black lost pistol to use as the template. This gun had been his constant companion across many dangerous stations. It stayed effective even in high-level areas. Now, he pushed his limits. He decided to sublimate the card itself. The process was absolutely grueling. It drained 70 points of his energy, leaving him completely exhausted. But the result was the legendary Enchanted Heaven's Reaper card. Without hesitation, he pressed the glowing card directly against his pistol. A brilliant mix of black and white light erupted in the carriage. The pistol floated in midair, vibrating with an intense hum. Power rattled the entire train carriage until the light finally cleared, revealing a sleek black firearm, beautifully engraved with angelic and demonic wings. A level 6 masterpiece, equipped with Heaven's Reaper it was capable of. Absorbing life force from kills to heal him and restore his energy, it could fire black armor-piercing rounds for spirit, white explosive ones for stamina. And combining them, a devastating dual-colored shot, he decided to name it Black Ebony, honoring a game he once loved playing. To test its power, he opened the window and scanned the frozen plains until he spotted a mummy monster in the distance. He expended a point of stamina and fired. A white bullet, upon impact, the creature didn't just fall, it detonated. In an explosion that far surpassed the destructive power of a grenade, he chose not to sublime the rest of the items for now, wary of what materials the enhanced boost might require, but he used the leftover wolf pelt to craft some incredibly comfortable bedding. With his missions accomplished, he lay back on his bed and hummed a cheerful tune. Midnight had already passed and he could hear the monsters chasing the train outside, but while the rest of the world was desperately fighting to see tomorrow, for him, just another ordinary evening, his path was clear. Tomorrow he would finally reach level 4. The distant screams of those who had failed to reach the second level echoed across the wilderness as the night claimed them, and he could only listen to their desperate, futile pleas for help. Without upgrades, they were nothing but prey. And even some who had managed to enhance their trains met tragic ends when damage slowed them down enough to be overtaken. It was a cold reminder of the world they now inhabited, but as the morning sun began to stream into his carriage, those horrors felt a world away. He went through his morning routine with a sense of calm, washing his face and preparing a warm breakfast while the soft light filled the train. The sunny doll had been right about the weather, and as he opened the window to let the cool, mild breeze flow in, he had to admit it was the most comfortable day he'd experienced. Since arriving here, he checked the sentry tower logs and saw they had spent 70 bullets during the night survival period. It was fewer than he expected, but some side-on attacks had still managed to scuff the train's flank. He made a mental note to prioritize avoiding damage in the future, as repairs were a drain on his precious materials. His personal stats were fully restored, sitting at 100 stamina and 120 mental. Energy, he finished the last bite of his white forest fruit and rubbed his hands. Together with a surge of anticipation, ready to see what the fourth level of train upgrades had in store for him, he walked to the locomotive and placed his hand on the original control interface, maintaining the ritual, even though his new system modules made physical contact totally unnecessary. The command for sublimation drained 30 points of stamina and 70 points of mental energy, but the result was worth the cost. He was now the conductor of a level 4 train, milestone that earned him the title of Upgrade Master and a conductor. Enhancement card for breaking yet another record. Luckily, his talent had significantly mitigated the drain, without that self-enhanced efficiency and upgrade of this scale might have left him completely hollow. He was somewhat surprised to be the first in the sector to reach this level. Shaw had given him a flame stone, so he assumed other veterans might do the same. But he was dead wrong. It turned out Shaw's intervention was just a lucky fluke. The old guard rarely interfered with newcomers in this brutal environment. Still, after the upgrade, his train speed jumped by another 20 kilometers. The real intrigue lay in the shop options. He stared at the screen, baffled. Silent questions filled his mind as he looked at the steep prices. A luxury dream bed cost 5 coins, space enhancement was 8, the anywhere door 6. A smart chip was 10, buying everything would cost 29 train coins total. That would completely wipe out his entire savings. He had to wonder if the system was tailoring these costs specifically to his current wealth. It was ridiculously expensive, and he winced at the thought of spending so much. But these opportunities might never return. He evaluated each option carefully. The luxury dream bed promised optimal rest and a solid guarantee against nightmares. That sounded amazing compared to the back-straining metal slab he had been using. He bought it immediately. The space enhancement was an obvious choice as well, reminding him of the expansive interior of Shaw's church carriage, so he added that to his cart along with the anywhere door module, allowing him to move between carriages with ease. When he reached the smart chip, he hesitated. The idea of granting Wally basic artificial intelligence was tempting. But he had to be pragmatic. He only had 20 coins left. And with a trading station coming up, he could not afford to go broke. Wally would have to wait. He was confident he could replenish his funds soon. The next few stations would surely pay off, once his purchases finalized. The train felt noticeably roomier, an extra meter in every dimension made a world of difference. He moved the new bed into his bedroom carriage. Without the space upgrade, it would have been a tight fit. He collapsed onto the mattress, feeling the soft, resilient material dissolve the tension in his body. The relief was instant. He checked his interface one last time, watching his recovery rates tick upward, prioritizing his own rest over Wally's brain upgrade was definitely the right call. After resting a while, he sat up in bed feeling recharged. The luxury mattress worked wonders. His recent upgrade rewards were not limited to just physical comforts either. A brand new notification caught his eye. He had earned a unique title. He was now an upgrade master, being the first conductor to hit level 4. The description noted it as recognition of his outstanding and rapid performance. More practically, it promised to make gaining trust with native survivors much easier. Trust is a rare currency in this wasteland, and honestly, he needed every advantage. He equipped the title immediately, though he would have to wait until the next station to see if it actually smoothed over any of his future introductions. Finally, he turned his attention to the level 4 record reward. It was a conductor enhancement card, promising to boost his stamina. He would get 10 extra mental and physical points, perfect for someone who constantly burns through massive energy for heavy sublimations. Unlike digital modules, this card possessed a physical material form. That meant he could push it even further, quickly funneling 35 points of pouring his mental energy into it, watching it transform into an advanced conductor. Enhancement card, now the potential boost has doubled to 20 points. He holds the card between 2 fingers and presses it close to his chest, choosing to enhance his physical stamina first. The card dissolves into tiny red particles of light that merge into his skin, sending an indescribable wave of comfort through his body that lasts for several minutes. When the process finishes, his stamina limit shoots from 100 to 120. Clenching his fist, he picks up a stray piece of wood and snaps it with a light squeeze. The strength is staggering. If he were back in his old world, he would be considered a superhuman. It seems that stamina in the system acts as a catch-all for physical power. And speed, just as mental stamina, likely governs more than just focus, he decides. Not to overthink the mechanics for now, as he needs to recover his condition. Before the next stop, the clock strikes 1 p.m., the scheduled time for station entry, yet the familiar spatial distortion is nowhere to be found. He leans against the window and flicks his fingers, opening the public chat to see that the survivor count has dropped to 1735. Over 200 people vanished in a single night. The chat is buzzing with confusion and anxiety about the missing station. Soon, the cold and mechanical female voice of the broadcast breaks the silence, announcing that Station 7 will be a public trading station where all conductors must stop, but there is a catch: they must travel 300 kilometers, and there are only 20 parking tracks available. It is a first-come, first-served race, and to make matters worse, they are warned to expect monster attacks designed to slow their progress. The chat room explodes instantly, with many complaining that Level 2 trains cap at 40 kilometers per hour stand no chance against Li Xiao Sheng, who bragged about reaching Level 3 with a 60-kilometer top speed. He watches Li Xiao Sheng bask in the praise of his alliance members, promising to report back once he arrives. First, a smirk curves his lips as he does the math. A Level 2 train takes 7.5 hours, while Li's Level 3 takes 5. His Level 4 train can make it in 3 hours and 45 minutes at its base speed of 80 kilometers, but he has no intention of going that slow. He still has his red triple-speed train acceleration device and a stockpile of bullets he has never had to use. He retrieves a silver-white acceleration bullet, thick as a baby's arm, and uses the anywhere door to step directly into the locomotive. He loads the shell, feeling the device rise, initiating the boost. A powerful surge of momentum pushes him back into his seat as the wilderness begins to blur. When the monsters mentioned in the broadcast appear to block his path, they don't even have time to react. Going 240, the train simply smashes them into unidentifiable meat patties. In 10 minutes, he already covers 40 kilometers. He loads a second bullet and keeps the pressure on. Thanks to that sustained burst of speed, it takes him only 3 hours to see the massive silhouette of the station rising from the wasteland. Just as he approaches, the crossroads of fate flickers to life, offering him a choice between the novice trading zone for levels 1 to 3 or the regular trading zone for levels 4 to 6. He doesn't hesitate to choose the latter. The train begins to slow as he passes through a semi-transparent dome looms overhead as the track shifts, diverting his train toward a larger, far more imposing station. A welcoming message flashes, identifying him by name. An ID confirming his arrival at the transit station. Yakayan looks at the screen and blinks in surprise. The parking countdown is now infinite. Infinite, and the danger level is non-existent. Infinite parking time in a place with zero danger feels way too good to be true. The train finally stops at the trading platform, leaving him staring blankly at the glowing screen. That word, infinite, sits in the docking column, making absolutely no sense. Infinite docking. Does this harsh world really offer a free pass to just stop? He doesn't buy it. For a single second, while he stands there puzzling over the screen, a quiet tapping sound draws his attention. He looks up to see a strange figure of indistinguishable gender standing right outside the door, wearing a white, smiling face mask and a black military cap, waving at him. The train's sentry is quiet, meaning this is an actual person, not some monster. The masked man tilts his head. Standing nearly 2 meters tall, he looks like a small mountain. He claps his white-gloved hands together and bows. He greets Yakayan with a soft welcome, calling him a respectable captain and introducing himself as the official guide. For transit station platform number 2, Yakayan asks what a guide even does. The guide straightens up, gesturing with one hand toward the massive building behind him. He says he is here to lead him to the shopping hall so the station can take those train coins off his hands, plus he can clear up some doubts. Yakayan calls him incredibly honest, and the guide cheerfully thanks him for the compliment. Stepping off the train, Yakayan shuts the door behind him to let the sentry protect the carriage from any unwelcome guests. He asks what the price of info is, and the guide replies that it is completely free. Answering basic questions is part of his job, though spending some coins would definitely make him happier. As they walk toward the shopping area, Yakayan asks the one big question on his mind: why does this station even exist out here in the wilderness? And what is with that infinite docking time? Can he really just stay here? Never move forward again. The masked guide pauses, and even through that white face, a sharp, playful gaze locks onto him before vanishing. Now watch, the guide explains. That these stations have always existed. There is no deeper reason behind it. As for the unlimited time, yes, he can choose to abandon his train and remain here forever. With a sudden wave of pure malice, the guide asks if he wants to stay. Yakayan refuses, making the guide shake his head. What a pity, he sighs. They soon arrive at the shopping hall, and the guide pulls a card from his uniform, swiping it at the door. The entrance slides open, revealing the massive hall inside. Gesturing for him to enter, the guide smiles. As Yakayan steps inside, a glowing screen drops from the ceiling, projecting his stats. Serial number E31102, Yakayan, level 4. 7 stations cleared, train coins 20. Honestly, he does not care. This kind of information is not valuable. He asks what to do next, but gets no response. Yakayan looks suspiciously at the guide, who stands completely frozen. His eyes behind the mask stare fixedly at him. He asks if something is wrong, or if he looks strange. The guide suddenly snaps out of it, incredulously sizing him up. He mentions this is actually only his 7th station, truly surprising. The guide has been on this platform for years and never saw anyone arrive so early. The traveling station's 2nd platform is almost never train captain's 7th stop. How did he even reach level 4 already? But the captain sees absolutely no reason to satisfy the man's curiosity. His expression stays calm, but sparks of electricity flicker from his boots. A subtle reminder that this guest can easily bite back. The guide quickly shakes his head. He says it is not important, apologizing for being rude. Then he does something insane. Raising a slender hand right before the captain's eyes, he rips off his own arm. He calls it self-punishment, offering to tear off the other if the captain is still unhappy. There is no need, the captain replies, since he is not that bored. The guide thanks him. He picks the arm off the ground and presses it back against the torn flesh. Sprouts of flesh bond them together, and even the blood on the ground returns. It flows straight back in. Talk about creepy. 3 paths split the shopping hall. He leads the captain to the path on the far right, marked above with the numeral 6. This lane holds the display cases for level 6 items, and he explains the rules. According to those rules, the captain can buy exactly 1 item here. The guide waves his arm. 2 transparent display cases rise on both sides of the path. The captain asks why only 2. The guide replies that if he is unsatisfied, he can check the other areas next door. Those level 4 and 5 zones have way more items, or failing that, low-tier posts. There are low-level trading posts from level 1 to 3. The captain shrugs it off. He decides to take a look first, walking straight between the 2 display cases. Opening the screen, the Great Compassion appears. A level 6 weapon using mental power instead of bullets, condensing 10 rounds per point. It deals extra damage to evil mental forces, demons, and other dark entities. The weapon also applies an expiation effect to ghosts and anomalies. Price, 18 train coins. Then there is the Trickster Sword, level 6, which permanently consumes 10 mental power. It can trigger a triple reduction effect on mental power tied to life itself. Furthermore, it doubles the enemy's sanity loss, self-doubt, and absolute mental madness. The price is 18 train coins, brutally expensive. The smiling guide says it is worth it. He is not wrong, but look at this ridiculous Trickster Sword. Who would even use this? Trade his own mental capacity to weaken an enemy. That sounds like a classic case of hurting the enemy slightly while completely ruining himself. He makes his choice. 18 train coins in his hand turn to golden light. They merge directly into the heavy glass of the display cabinet. With a soft glow, the massive, dark golden Great Compassion heavy machine gun rises. It rises into view, massive, thick, incredibly cool, and also ridiculously heavy. He lifts it. The crushing weight makes him instantly understand exactly how it earned its heavy name. If he had not previously boosted his stamina by 20 points, raising his strength, just lifting this monster would be a struggle. The smiling man offers no help. The captain has to haul this massive weapon himself. Luckily, he prepared for this. Preparing in advance for big purchases, he pulls a special safety box from his backpack. He slips the massive heavy machine gun inside. The smiling guide stays completely silent. His eyes beneath the mask dart around, watching the captain prepare to leave. Only then does the guide speak up, calling him a truly exceptional captain. The guide asks the captain for a favor, though it is not something the captain can handle right now. If he agrees, he gets another Level 6 item for free. The captain stops, asking what favor as the guide shatters the glass of another display case and lifts out the trickster sword, saying it is simple, he wants to die. The trickster sword is handed over to the captain. A sinister purple aura spreading from its blade, faint whispers echoing in his ears. The captain tells him to end his own life. Why even look for him then? Besides, he cannot kill someone who can repair severed limbs in just a few moments. Seconds, the guide shakes his head, explaining that no guide can end their own life. He tells the captain to rest assured it does not matter if he agrees, as the captain said he really cannot kill him right now, so why ask? The guide is simply gambling, hoping the captain will return one day with the power to finally grant him release. He removes his mask, revealing a face of twisted wrinkles and abstract features. The guide explains that he was also once a fellow train captain forced to remain here forever. This monstrous form is the curse keeping him bound. Quite terrifying. No, he puts the mask back on, noting the item is already out and cannot be returned. So the sword belongs to the captain, even if he forgets this in the future. Just act like nothing was said. He drops the sword at his feet. Should he take it? Why not? The captain says he cannot guarantee anything, nor when he can do it, but if the guide accepts those terms, he will agree. The guide thanks him, saying that is enough, and bows before returning to his original posture. He announces that the captain's purchases at the station are finished, but adds that the station sells specialty foods from human society, purchasable with coins, asking if he wants to try them. The captain starts to decline, but the guide starts listing steamed buns, delicious dumplings, and hot pot. Suddenly, everything costs just 1 train coin, an exclusive benefit offered solely to the first train captain to enter. Honestly, who could say no to hot pot? A few minutes later, he is sitting in a restaurant, staring at the massive feast of delicacies, recalling the terrible, bland, and overly salty grilled meat he made over the past few days, swallowing hard before digging in. 5 hours and 30 minutes after the public platform finally opens, a damaged train enters the transit station from afar. It stops and lies idle. Zan runs out in a total mess, coughing and cursing the foul monsters that set his train on fire. Good thing he was moving fast, otherwise he would be finished. Damn it, all his carriages are completely destroyed, leaving only the engine carriage left. The 2 cars that originally stored his valuable resources were ambushed on the way. If not for his top speed, he would have been blown to pieces along with his train. He punches the ground, taking a moment to calm down before scanning the empty platform. His mouth curls into a grin, declaring himself the very first to arrive. He plans to buy weapon blueprints first, then trade those designs to other captains for flamestones, ensuring he stays ahead of everyone. No stopping for him. He is determined to be the absolute protagonist of this harsh new world. He stands up, spots the main building, and strides over, completely unaware that right now every single move he makes is being watched by someone. In the ordinary trading zone, there is only 1 train on the empty platform, while Yikian sits leisurely on the roof, enjoying a peaceful sunbath. The smiling man stands silently beside him. He asks if they are really invisible to those on the other side. Naturally, the guide explains that the different trading zone levels have extremely strict rules. Low-level zones absolutely cannot see anything happening in higher level areas, so maybe someone is watching them from a higher trading zone. Right now, he muses. No, the guide replies. Transit stations only have 2 types: novice and ordinary trading zones. Oh, Yikian cracks peanuts, watching Li Xiaosheng struggle in the novice zone with great interest, asking if they have a guide too, since that guy looks completely lost. The smiling man shakes his head, then nods. There was one, but they died, and he honestly envies the dead. He explains that he is currently moonlighting as a guide for both zones, meaning he should have appeared in the novice zone, but compared to guiding a pack of fresh newbies, Yikian is far more important. Furthermore, he says transactions in novice zone are just tutorials meant to help new train captains understand this world as much as possible within 10 stations. The ordinary trading zone was never supposed to open, a situation that has only happened once in decades. His look at Yikian is strange. He does not understand how anyone upgrades their train to level 4 before 10 stations, nor how he could barge into the ordinary zone, and he was not mistaken. What he saw earlier was a level 9 safety box, which is even less likely to be something a novice should ever possess. It is precisely this sheer impossibility that makes him hope Yi Qian might kill him. He accepts that. As something to be a little proud of, he offers him the last peanut, asking if he wants some. Silence, the smiling man only turns his head away, remaining completely quiet. Ah, sorry, he remembers, the guide cannot eat, tossing the peanut into his mouth. And clapping his hands clean, he summons the light screen, raises his eyes, and stares back. He points out that the infinite stop time displayed on the screen is problematic, is it not? The guide chooses silence, and Yi Qian nods, understanding the answer. He drops the subject, noticing a message notification waiting in his chat. Background from Jolin. If he remembers correctly, the luck of this woman is completely conserved, meaning she is currently due for a massive streak of misfortune. Fortunately, her avatar has not turned gray yet, meaning she is still very much alive. But given her good luck last time and the looming disaster now, he is not sure she can actually make it to the station alive. 40 minutes ago, she wrote, "Brother Yi, do you want to meet up when we arrive? I can bring some snacks and alcohol." Then 9 minutes ago, she sent another message complaining that mummies were blocking the front of her train, though they were slow as snails. She laughed, thinking her bad luck was not that serious, except that the alcohol she bought for him had shattered, apologizing for the mess, but then she added that her terrible luck had truly kicked in. The train wheels got caught on a corpse, cutting her speed drastically, and she begged him to sell her some repair materials. She brought up the items she had put on the trading platform during the previous stop, pointing out that nobody else had bought them except for him. Her bad luck has begun, and Yi Qian simply tells her that getting a wheel stuck on a mummy is classic Jolin. Xiaolin huddles in a dusty corner with her weapon, peeking outside every few seconds to see if monsters block her path. Spotting his message, she grabs it like a lifeline, desperately replying that she never wanted any of this. Ye already knows everything about her special talent. She was supposed to sell her previous haul for vital resources, but nobody is buying, and she has no clue why. It really seems like her terrible luck did not just begin at this quiet station. Her bad luck actually started the very second her amazing run of good luck ran dry. Honestly, it is pretty easy to see why nobody wanted her snacks. Surviving players simply cannot afford to waste precious resources on casual food cravings, Ye tells her to just suck it up, but she cries that she cannot do that. She offers him all her snacks if he will trade repair materials. Attached to the message is a hilarious little chibai emoji of someone kneeling and crying in despair. Whether it is funny or not, Ye has absolutely no intention of playing her savior for free. He points out she must have scored some train coins from her last chest. He wants her to use those coins to trade for materials. The chat falls dead silent. Ye is in no rush. Barely a minute later, her reluctant agreement arrives. She lists her urgent needs, which come to exactly 42 machine parts. Normally, Xiaolin would never dream of trading 2 extremely valuable train coins for just that. "You giant profiteer," she cries out, knowing she has absolutely no choice. He is totally bullying her, but once she finally gets the materials, she quickly repairs her train before the nearby monstrous creatures can catch up with her. Looking miserable, she pats her flat wallet, whining about her bad luck. She complains that Ye has absolutely no idea how to treat a lady. With her money completely gone, a new notification pops up as Ye sends her another message. He offers a bit of useful advice as a friendly gesture. Does she want it? She immediately accuses him of trying to scam her empty pockets again. Yet a split second later, she quickly changes her mind and begs him to tell her everything. Ye reveals that the docking time at this trading station is infinite. Hearing this, Xiaolin leaps up in absolute excitement, completely forgetting where she is.